Wagwan, everyone. I hope you're keeping well and welcome, yes, to our Premier League predictions show, guide, and everything else, people. Who else would I have to join me rather than my brother, my actual brother, and my very much of a co-host on this Premier League preview show extra in the wonderful Edmin. How are you doing, man?
Yeah, all good. Busy day today at work. I think I've caught the sun as well over the last few days. I'm noticing I'm almost as red as your t-shirt. All good to you?
Yeah, man, I'm all good. How excited are you for this Premier League season and like even to do this video?
I love it. I love talking football, and I love the fact that it's back. And we've got the World Cup to look forward to in the winter. I'm still getting my head around that. And the Commonwealth Games is on. I was in Birmingham today. It's been a festival of sport the last few days. Loving it.
Wow.
I'm going to the Wolves next week, so it's all. I'm flying right now. When it comes to sport.
Is that for the Fulham game?
Yeah. Me and Jacob. Jacob's first game.
Oh, no way! This is news to me as well, people. This wasn't pre-planned. Oh man, this is really exciting. What a season! Because this is for Jacob, my nephew Ed's son. Is it's his first real full season. He got into it towards like the midpoint to latter end of last season. So now, he's
becoming football obsessed. I love it.
I'm a proud uncle. And you know what? There's no better but hopefully this is a good season for him to get involved, but we'll talk about that.
Speaking of that, hello, Drew.
Big up, Drew. Thanks for coming in. He knew it was already. Big up yourself, Drew. And let's big up to the comments right now. We've got Edmin in here saying 21 to go. Let's do this, TTF. Come on, just 21 more subscribers. Best way you can do that is by liking this video and you know what, sharing. Tell a friend and get in the comments afterwards, but we'll give you something to get in the comments for. Don't you worry about that. Big up Jay in the house with King in here too. Social, Drew, Aled in here. Big up Aled, man. Nice.
Have you seen his tan?
Yeah, I have.
Holiday. He's getting browner than you two.
I know, exactly. Do you know what I mean? Aled, hope you had a great holiday.
His dad is ripped. That's what I've learned from. That's what I've learned from the vlogs.
That's what I'm saying. Go check out Clap Talk TV. Check out his holiday in Lanzarote.
Good quality content as well. Still,
you know what? Like most of us, when we go on holiday, we like loaf around, chill.
Alan's working.
Exactly. He works harder than me on holiday than I do here. Do you know what I mean? So big up Alan, man.
He's putting me to shame, and I think I'm twice his age.
Hey, trust me. Big up T-She in here as well. Hope you're keeping well, sis. Hope you had a good one at the Commonwealth today. I'll speak to you about that after. Big up Rich in here, putting Jamaica over Canada. We know he's trying to get at here.
Jokes.
And he's Jamaican me crazy. Lads, best wishes. Big up yourself, Moss.
Get some sleep, Moss.
Yeah, definitely. Moss is over here in the UK. He needs to get some sleep for sure. Big up Sean, all the way from Jamaica as well. I'm sure he'll agree with your comment there, Rich. Let's check Tereak Southgate's prediction. We'll get into it. I'm not even going to give no clues, no spoilers. Ed's seen it. Ed's seen it, but I'll leave that there. Big up Luca in here as well. Hope you're keeping good. T-Shade, hi baby to Drew right there. Big up M, who's in here. Big up yourself for an oncoming Friday. Come on, you guys. Currently at work, so I'll be watching what we will do. Oh, definitely, man. Thank you for tuning in, man. I really appreciate that. And then big up everyone who's in here as well. And then look at that, Drew sending a nice little kiss. But you know what? We're going to get started. We are going to get started. We've got plenty to run through. Without no further ado, let me tell you what we're going to be doing in this video. So it is the Premier League predictions and guide. So me and Ed will be giving you our predictions in this video. But before we do that and predictions on each side, I do have a tier list system set up for myself and Ed right here that you can see on the screen. But let me bring this back in. So this is how we're going to do it. We're going to discuss the 4 categories of each team. And the 4 categories are when we start off with Arsenal, for example, because, in alphabetical order, that's what we're doing it. We'll discuss the strengths, the weaknesses, the star player, and the one to watch. So if you caught any of the shows that I did with the call-in show or the Arsenal call-in show for the Arsenal show, I did ask my guests, the people who joined me, what their thoughts and opinions were. So you might be familiar with it if you caught up on those. But if you hadn't, don't worry. We'll go right through it and we'll explain it as we're doing it. Then, once we've discussed those 4 categories on one team, we will give our prediction where the team is going to finish. So I will give mine. Ed will then give his. I'll put it in the correct category right there. And then the prediction table at the end. I do have a prediction table already set out for you guys that I will show you at the end. And guys, make sure you do join the Tereak Talks fam in the Discord server. If one of you could kindly drop that in to the comments, please, then you know what? One of you who are a part of the Tereak Talks fam, get the invite link and drop it in here. Because guys, I will be creating a channel in the server for you to leave your predictions, and we're going to discuss through them. We'll get your thoughts. I want to hear what your thoughts are. It's not just us. We'll give you some of our research that we've done. Ed's kindly helped me with that as well. He searched up a lot of the teams. We're going to alternate, as you'll see, but we want to hear your predictions. Also, get them in the comments as well. That also helps in terms of engagement. It was somewhere to go back when we do watch this video at the end of the season. And then we'll see right there. And you know what? We'll work out a point system as well. We'll talk to you about that at the end. And we've got another prediction show that will come at the end of the transfer window, but more to come on that at the end. So yes, any questions at all, get them into the chat. We'll try and sort them out. But without further ado, we're going to let Edmin start off with Arsenal. I've given him the honours. Ed's going to start first. And if you can work that out, that means I'm going to finish on his team, Wolves. So this is going to be from a neutral's perspective. Ed, talk to us. Give us a guide into Arsenal's season ahead and what you've done in terms of your research.
Yeah, so I think Tariq's given me Arsenal, so we don't speak until 9 o'clock about Arsenal, because you know what he's like. You know what he's like when he gets started on Arsenal. So for the strengths, I think what I've put down really for what reading through it, continuity. I know when you did your last Arsenal stream, Wilf and King were big on the continuity, the process, if you will, of the sticking with Arteta, sticking with the process, going through it. Still clearing out that dead wood. There's still some more to go, and we'll talk about that in weaknesses. But in terms of on the pitch, for me, I've put the strengths down as the attack. Huge upgrade in Gabriel Jesus coming in for Lacazette or Lacazette threat, as the meme was towards the end of the season last season. Huge difference now in having that focal point. Should take some of the pressure off Saka. Should take some of the pressure off Martinelli in terms of having to produce constantly. When you look at that attack, though, Saka, Martinelli, Jesus, ESR, just the first ones that come off the list, Odegaard pulling the strings, that is an attack that pretty much any team in Europe would be impressed to have, would be glad to have. That is some impressive attacking talent. You've got a couple of Hale End boys in there, as well as some of the youngsters in Martinelli. Odegaard, still relatively young, even though it feels like he's been around forever. Weaknesses, I think the glaring obvious one that I know has been talked about on other people's streams, including Luca and all the other people, the big Arsenal content creators, is that central midfield. You're one, maybe half an injury away from being very, very light in the central midfield. I don't know if you agree with that, T, but with obviously all the stuff, the Thomas Partey stuff that's flying around at the minute, obviously no comments on that in terms of what he has or hasn't done. That's not for us to decide. But if that's a distraction, that's a huge miss. If he can't stay fit, that's another huge miss. You're back to relying on Xhaka, who I've always rated, and Tariq can take it. Rated in terms of he's not as bad as everyone says. He's also not, fantastic. No one's saying that. But, if he doesn't do the silly things, which obviously is the biggest issue with him, he's a very serviceable central midfielder. Sambi Lokonga, I know he's probably too young, probably needs a loan. That central midfield for me is still very, very, very light. If you're talking about having players like Ben White maybe having to step up, that's not where you want your team to be at this time of the season. Obviously, there's a month or so left of the transfer window, so who knows what Arsenal may or may not do. Star player for me is T Starboy, number 7. It's got to be Bukayo Saka. If you just a quick look at just his Premier League stats alone, 97 appearances over the last 3 and a bit seasons. Most of those before last season would have been heavily bench boosted. 17 goals, 15 assists. You're looking at sort of 1 goal, some contribution, about 2.5 games. Obviously, last season was his best season so far. If you're looking at the only weakness for me with Saka, and it's something I mentioned in some of the comments on Tereak's previous videos, is he needs to be a threat going on the outside as well as coming in on the inside. Unless he learns that little Robin shimmy, who knows? He might be able to do it. If you're looking at his big chances created that didn't go in as well, 19, failed assists, if you want to call it that as well. So you're looking at, if you used to get even half of those, you're talking a goal contribution every other game, which is unbelievable. And for me, the breakout star, I think it has to be Martinelli this year. I think Jesus lessens the load on ESR, Martinelli and Saka in terms of people won't double up on them, won't double mark them, double coverage if you use an NBA term. But his biggest thing for me is he has to be available this year. He can't have niggling injuries. He can't get himself sent off for definitely 2 bookable offences like he did last year. His stats aren't as impressive as you think his contribution should be. 18 goal contributions, 11 goals and 7 assists in almost 60 games. It's not enough for me for the quality he has. He's stepped up this year. He's got the number 11. I think he needs to prove it now, and I think he needs to get 15 to 20 goals in all competitions for me and 10 assists. He needs to double his stats, I think, this season. And I think with Jesus, Saka, Ødegaard, ESR, there's enough rotation there for him to do that. So that's my breakdown on Arsenal.
Very good, bro. You know what? I can't disagree. I think you've hit the nail on the head on everything. And it's interesting to hear that from an outside perspective in terms of how you've assessed our squad. And I definitely agree in terms of that, the strengths, the weaknesses, and I'd probably even add to that the squad depth as well overall. Mm-hmm. We've addressed it, as you said, in some areas, but yeah, midfield, that's where the big issue is, like you said. And totally agree with you on Martinelli, because last year I did do a similar video to this, and I said Gabriel Martinelli was the one who needed to break through this year. That year didn't quite do it. He had a good spell in December, but didn't show that consistency. Number 11 now, spot on, bro. Let's see what you guys are saying in the comments. Rich is saying Arsenal strength, playing you never walk alone at training. Oh. And he's saying Arsenal's weakness is Xhaka. You know what you're doing there, Rich. But he's saying the star boy is Saka, and his one to watch is Zinchenko.
Yeah, Zinchenko is on my list as well as potentials. You've got the ability there as well, but Zinchenko is probably going to be used in central midfield as well. And I think he'll be more than serviceable there. So, yeah, I think Rich is right on that one.
Yeah, and Jesus as the star man. I think, you could put that in. He's someone else who's going to have a key role in this squad. But then when you're also looking at Bukayo Saka in terms of creativity and goals, Jesus won't be able to do it by himself.
Yeah.
And Saka is usually the second in command in terms of Arsenal's goals. He was the top goal scorer last season, and you expect him to be there. So, yeah, it's a toss of a coin between those, really. But big up everyone who's watching. Ed, I'd like to hear your prediction for Arsenal this season so I can move them for you. Where do you think Arsenal are going to finish?
So I have you 4th. I have you breaking into the Champions League and have you 4th.
Nice. So
obviously, the caveat for all of these guys is obviously a massive injury to Saka, a massive injury to Jesus, and all the other teams throws these out the window. But all of these predictions for me are based on the teams as we have them now, and any sort of no massive injury worries.
There you go. Of course, it's and we still got transfer window to go, and this is going to be one of the hardest seasons to predict in general because of the World Cup and such fixture congestion, which isn't for the first year in a row. Remember, we had it last season as well with COVID, so that will certainly take a toll on some players. So Ed's gone with Arsenal to finish in the Champions League. Arsenal fans, you'll like to hear that. You'll like to hear that indeed about Ed thinking Arsenal are going to finish 4th. For myself, though, I got good news and bad news in terms of my prediction.
Yes, settle in, Gooners.
Settle in. Moss, listen to me. I'll give you the bad news first.
You do realise Moss can come and find you now, T, by the way. He's only in London. You do know that, right?
I have predicted Arsenal to finish 5th. Once weighing it all up, people, I've weighed it all up and I'm thinking of how the season might pan out and how other teams in and around us. I think we will be close to the top 4. We definitely can do it. But if I had to put my money, if I had to put my house on it, I would say 5th. But the good news is, people, I agree with Wesbird. This is the good news. I think we will win the Europa League, but finish 5th. So we will still get Champions League football through another avenue. I think that's the important thing for Arsenal, is to make sure we can get Champions League football, whether it's through 4th or the Europa League. And if we are deep into the Europa League, I don't think we quite yet. Of course, this could change in the transfer window if we do make a couple more signings at least. Well, currently with this squad, we're not ready to compete on both fronts. That's if we are deep into the FA Cup as well. That's a third competition we could be in at that point, when the games are coming thick and fast. Any little bit of injuries, once Ed said again, injuries or whatever happens with Thomas Partey, if he's out and he's unavailable, do we have anyone that can pick up that mantle? He's so important for the side, and we saw how much of a detriment it was when we lost him last season. So I do think that may take its toll, and that Arsenal will finish 5th. But like Westbird says, we will win the Europa League if we do finish 5th. I think we'll make Champions League either way. For finishing the top 4, don't see us winning the Europa League. That would be a dream come true. But yeah, Westbird also says Saliba and Erdegaard, I think, will go to another level, in my humble but accurate opinion. Mr. 200 says Arsenal are finishing 3rd. King says, call me deluded. I think Arsenal will finish 4th and win the Europa League. That would be a fantastic season. That would be huge. Big up Saspo. Arsenal are grabbing trophies this summer. I hope you're right, Saspo. I will take that. Indeed, trophies are so important. And for us to get that one, it would be amazing, the Europa League. I haven't seen Arsenal win a European competition in my lifetime. King says Saliba is the one to watch for him. So this is a good thing with Arsenal. We've got plenty of players to pick from, for sure. Let me know your thoughts if you're watching afterwards in the comments, where you think Arsenal is going to finish, as we move on into our next team. And this is the team that I'm going to discuss, and it's Aston Villa. So with Aston Villa, it's going to be an interesting season when we're going to judge Aston Villa, because, you know, Steven Gerrard, he came in at midpoint last season when Dean Smith got the sack. He had a good start. It's tailed off a little bit towards the end of it. They went through that sticky patch where there was running a little bit empty. Then Coutinho had a hot run and hot flashes, but it still was a disappointing season in the end, given the expectations around Aston Villa. So in terms of their strengths and what I've gone for, when I'm looking at Aston Villa, you've got to look at the goals and creativity they have in the central areas. That is where Steven Gerrard, I think he noticed that's where they had their strengths in the signings that they made. Bringing in Coutinho, he added a lot of creativity and a few goals in there. We saw Jacob Ramsey have a breakthrough season, scoring plenty of goals. John McGinn was popping up with a few goals. At Crystal Palace, we got Rich, and then we got Emi Buendia, who had a disappointing start, and he had a few moments, flashes of brilliance, but I expect his creative numbers to creep back up there to where he was previously when he was at Norwich, competing with the likes of Trent Alexander-Arnold and Kevin De Bruyne in terms of chances created. He was excellent there, and there was a lot of expectations for him. Even when you look at the forwards with Ollie Watkins and Danny Ings, if they can play together and they can stay fit, mainly Danny Ings, he will definitely score you Premier League goals. And then Leon Bailey, who's looked sharp in pre-season, he's been playing in that as that second striker with wide forwards that Steven Gerrard likes to play with. And then even at the fullback position, when you look at Luca Dean, from free kicks he can score goals, from crossing opportunities he takes corners. They've got goals coming out from different areas, and that's the strength that I see them in turn that they have compared to the teams around them in that middle of the table. But when I'm looking at their weaknesses, people, there is certainly an over-reliance on their fullbacks. Aston Villa's wingers, apart from Leon Bailey, whose role seems to be changing through what we've seen in pre-season, they are playing and they are really focusing on attacking and defending with their fullbacks. When they're out of possession, their midfielders are having to cover in wide areas a lot. And, that's quite uncomfortable for players that are used to playing central. And that can lead them to get exposed at times or outnumbered in those wide areas. So I do think that could be a trouble. Then when I'm looking at the fullbacks they have as well, in Luca Dean and Matty Cash, they are so important because in terms of the depth, Frederick Gilbert, he's just not at the level, nowhere near Matty Cash. And we saw that in his first season at Aston Villa when they just survived from relegation. Augustinson, new signing, still got, he's been signed as that secondary option. And I don't think there's much expectation around him. He's more of the replacement for Matty Targett. And then when I'm also looking at their weakness in midfield, yes, they have a lot of creators and goal scorers, but their ball retention was one of the lowest in the Premier League. I think Aston Villa's midfield was 15th in terms of ball possession and keeping the ball. And that's an area that they need to improve on. Maybe Boubacar Kamara can add into that situation with his ball playing ability, but they don't really have players that will help them dominate possession. They're more transition. Against better sides who will, or teams that will be able to set them up and set traps, I think their midfield can be got at. In terms of the star player, what I went for was Matty Cash. Once again, linking into what I said, he's their best right back, and the secondary option is a huge gap in Frederick Gilbert. But Matty Cash, this is someone I made as my breakthrough player last season for Aston Villa. I think he had a breakthrough. He wasn't as good as he was in his first season, but he was certainly someone to keep an eye on. And he's so important going forward and defending. He provides so much balance. I think he's the better defender than Luca Dean. Maybe not as good going forward, but he's very much a threat. And I expect higher attacking output from him. With, the likes of Ollie Watkins and Danny Ings, if they can stay fit, he's very good at crossing. Defending at the back post as well. I think he'll help whoever plays on that right side, whether it is Konza or Diego Carlos. Matty Cash is my star player. And the one to watch was the breakthrough player. And the reason I put him in the one to watch is Jacob Ramsey. The reason is, even though he added a lot of goals and more, and creativity in terms of assists, he had very good numbers. But I still think there's an improvement in his game in terms of passing. And when I say passing, I want to see him on the ball add a more variety to his game, playing long passes, short passes. He's shown a keen eye to play the ball forward, playing progressive passes, but sometimes forces it a little bit. I remember when I watched him against Arsenal in particular, he was giving the ball away a lot, and Arsenal were able to dominate and assert their dominance on the game because of those situations. He didn't have a great one there. And this is something I expect a player to gain through and to really have add to his repertoire through experience. And it's, controlling the game at certain points, knowing when to slow it down, knowing when to, control the tempo. It's something that you gain certainly for experience because, as you need to manage out certain situations, and that will definitely improve Aston Villa in the midfield. And if he can maintain his goal scoring threat as well, he will certainly break into the England side, maybe after the World Cup, but because it's quite competitive right now in that area. And that could be an area that he could add to the English national side. So, what's your thoughts on that there, bro?
Yeah, I don't as much I disagree with you. I know some of the people that have been in the chat, I think one to watch definitely Jacob Ramsey. I think he showed last year what he could do. He's going to have a pre-season under Stevie G. Stevie G should know about box-to-box midfielders, should know about those late runs into the box. I think he needs to up his goals and assists this year. The only concern I have for Villa is I think goals are potentially going to be an issue. Wendy and Coutinho potentially a bit similar, maybe in each other's way. Danny Ings, availability again. You might only get 20 games out of him this season. And does Ollie Watkins have enough in him? He's running. His defensive output for a striker is brilliant. I don't know if he's got the goal threat in him personally, but he is a good player. I've got them higher than Wolves for this season for the first time in a few years now. I think they're going to be absolutely fine, and hopefully for Stevie G, this is a season when he proves he's an actual manager.
Exactly. Big season it is for Steven Gerrard. And yeah, it's going to be an interesting season. Another one to watch for if he does stay, Cameron Archer. Brilliant loan spell he had at Preston North End, scored plenty of goals in the second half of the season. But we're still yet to wait and see. So we can't.
Yeah, and obviously they lost Chukwuemeka today as well, didn't they, to Chelsea? So
yeah,
£200 million for him. So
there you
we'll
go.
See.
We'll see right there. But Ed, in terms of your prediction for Aston Villa, where do you see them finishing?
I think I had them, 11th. 11th is where I put those. And I think I'd have had them higher if I believed in their ability to score goals. I think that's the real issue for me.
I think that
and Tyrone Mings still being.
But Tyrone Mings has lost his captaincy. And that kind of shows where the ranking that he will be in the squad. Yes. That's quite interesting. So I think Gerrard sees Konza and Diego Carlos as the starting centre-backs in that sense. 11th would be a good season, I'd imagine, for Steven Gerrard, something to build from. Once again, though, he has got a lot of experienced players in that side where, they're not really going to have much upside. So maybe it will take a regenerate, like a transition and getting through more youngsters so they don't lose the likes of Chukwuemeka again and bringing in the likes of Cameron Archer and Jacob Ramsey's brother in Aaron Ramsey himself. For me, with Aston Villa, it's quite interesting. I need to try and remember where I put them actually. With Aston Villa, I do think they are going to finish in that same region as you. I've gone for Aston Villa to finish in 12th, though. I do think in Aston Villa, which is a place lower than you, which is around the same. Yeah, I do think they'll be in and around there. Steven Gerrard seems like a good manager, even though Courtney disagrees here. Stevie G on Fraud Watch. He did get a tune out of them. We've seen what he's done at Rangers. Of course, yes, it's in the Scottish League where it's only Celtic to really compete with. But he developed that side, and that side it was his team that made it into the Europa League final last season. And that's the team that he developed and the players he brought in. So I think he can have that same effect at Aston Villa. They've got over the likes of the teams in the bottom half. I do think they have enough goals and creativity going forward, and I think they'll improve on that as the season goes on as well. So I've gone for Aston Villa in 12th. Ed, so the next team that we're going to be discussing is the newly promoted side in AFC Bournemouth. Give us the strengths and weaknesses of AFC Bournemouth, please, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so obviously getting promoted second last year, second quite comfortably from memory. That top three sort of broke away, didn't they? Strengths, definitely that the centre-backs and central midfield appear to be Premier League quality. Obviously, there's someone I'll talk about in a minute, Lloyd Kelly, is unproven at this level, but seems to have taken the Championship by storm. So also in there you've got Wales's Chris Mepham, you've got Adam Smith. All of those players are solid Burnley-esque defenders, if you know what I mean. Sort of kick it, head it, get rid of it. Lloyd Kelly's a little bit more like a ball playing centre half. You've got midfielders like Lewis Cook, Jefferson Lerma. They're all players and Philip Billing, they're all players that have proved that at some relatively Premier League level, they're ready. Weaknesses, I think I'm going to say, is for nearly every team pretty much. I'm not sure about where they're going to get their goals from. Kiefer Moore, I'm not overly convinced about him. Wolves were linked with him at one point last season, which kind of freaked me out a little bit. It's like we were desperate. Everyone remembers Dominic Solanke and his failings. You're then sort of after those two, you're looking down then at youngsters, players that aren't proven at this level. They've obviously brought in Tavernier as a player from Middlesbrough that impressed last year. Junior Stanislas, his stats are actually more impressive than you think. But for me, that leads on to the weaknesses. I think the weaknesses is going to be goals. You've got an unproven strike force that players like Dominic Solanke, you could say, really did fail in their last attempts at the Premier League level. People say that he found his level at the Championship, in the Championship. I don't know. He's still very young. He was thrust into it a little bit quickly. I'm pretty sure he picked up an England cap I think, as well. Their star player, Lloyd Kelly, bought from Bristol City a couple of seasons ago. His defensive stats, pretty incredible. His ability on the ball is something else to look out for. His forward passing stats. I'm not talking Van Dijk raking passes here, but he goes forward a lot more than he goes sideways and back. And for a central midfield, central defender, that's always something that's exciting to watch. Question marks for me only on his physicality. Being 5'10", 5'11", that's my height. I'm in and around that height. I know I'd struggle aerially against, obviously, very different athletically there. But there was concerns about Ben White at the start of last season. Let's not forget, and he kind of addressed most of those by the end of it. So who knows? Last thing, the breakout player, and hopefully a good news story, David Brooks for me. He's back in full training. For those that don't know, he has battled cancer over the last 18 months and got the all clear about 3 months ago. So he's back in full training. 2 seasons ago, he was 18, 19. He made 39 appearances, most of those off the bench, with 8 goals and 5 assists. And I remember him being someone that pundits like Neville and all the match of the day guys were waxing lyrical about. 8 goals and 5 assists in 39 appearances. And I'm pretty sure from memory that 17 of those were only starts. So we're talking almost half of his games have been off the bench. He looked good for Wales when he was breaking through as well. Defensively as well, his work rate and his interceptions are up there as well. When he was in the Premier League, he was averaging 5 to 6 tackles a game and 2 or 3 interceptions a game, which for an attacking sort of inside winger are quite impressive stats, especially at the age and the slight frame he had. So yeah, that's Bournemouth. Interesting to see where they go this season. There's a lot about them I didn't know, so reading up on them was actually quite interesting. You're on mute too.
Always rookie error. Oh man, it happened at work today as well. But yeah, Bournemouth, definitely the Edge giving us the lowdown there in terms of them and some players to keep an eye on. Lloyd Kelly, brilliant shout. He was linked with Arsenal as well, by the way. And when I kept an eye on him when he was linked with Arsenal 2 seasons ago, I thought he would have been a good alternative for Kieran Tierney. But yeah, he's adapted into that centre-back role. And he's done a very good job there. Let's see what you guys saying in the chat. I know we didn't get through Villa, but apologies for that there. Just conscious of time. King says strengths, manager, weakness, squad, star player, Solanke. Bournemouth in relegation, pretty sure, says T-Dog. And King has got for Bournemouth for finishing 17th. So surviving right there. Interesting. Mr. W says straight back down, I'm afraid, in 18th. Big up to yourself as well, Matt. And listen to Matt right there. Smash the likes to get this to 30. 30 likes. Can we get that, people? And Westburn offers you an alternative. You can caress it instead. And T-Dog, I think this is T-Dog offering. He's offering cake, donuts, and beer for if you like it, people. And on T-Dog, indeed. Mr. J as well. Big up yourself. We'll get into Liverpool for sure. So stay tuned for that. Right there. So in terms of Bournemouth, Ed, where do you see them finishing? Do you see them staying up like King said, or like T-Dog and Mr. W in getting relegated?
Yeah, I've got them dead last. Dead last, I'm afraid. They're 20th for me. There are some players there, but we're talking lack of depth, lack of goals. Yeah, I'm not overly convinced on the manager either, but I don't know enough to say either way on him personally, but I wasn't. What I've seen, I'm not overly convinced that they're any better than the team that went down a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I know Fulham, they weren't particularly impressed with how Scott Parker left their squad and the situation, how that unfolded. But I've also got to agree with you. I do think they will finish rock bottom, Bournemouth. Just that they're just not at the same quality as the Premier League teams around them. Their recruitment just hasn't been good enough. In terms of what I've seen from even the likes of Fulham and Nottingham Forest, I don't think they've strengthened enough at all. Built Mr. J, Juventus fan. This is what we like to see, Forza Juventus. Even though I'm an Arsenal fan, we don't have a great relationship with you guys at the moment in a business sense. But he likes United and Liverpool legend clubs. Big up yourself, Mr. J. So yeah, I've gone for Bournemouth to finish rock bottom as well. The next side that we're going to talk about is Brentford. Last season's newly promoted side had a very good end to last season. Started off wonderfully as well in their first game, beating Arsenal. Petered out a little bit. They kind of hit that, they came out that honeymoon period. Lacked creativity. Christian Eriksen came in. And then, Ivan Toney had a lot more freedom and they survived and they were quite comfortable in the end. But for Brentford, in terms of their strengths and weaknesses, when I'm looking at Brentford and their strengths, it certainly has to be with literal strength at the back, with the physicality that they do pose, and tall, strong defenders who are also very capable on the ball. When you think of the likes of Ethan Pinnock, Christopher Ajer, who had good versatility as well, playing at right back and being 6'5". You got Pontus Jansson as well, so they were very good at the back in the Premier League, and they gave Brentford and Thomas Frank a strong foundation to build from. Also looking at them, they've signed the likes of Keane Lewis Porter, who came from Hull City. He was an England under-21 international, had a successful spell at Hull. Could be the next Jared Bowen. I know that's the last player that went from Hull and into a Premier League side. Maybe that could happen there. They are very close to signing Mikael Damsgaard. I'm sure England fans, you'll remember him, the one who scored that free kick where it looked like Denmark were going to cause us some trouble in that semi-final of the Euros. But he was also very impressive in the early group stages then as well. Hasn't really kicked on at Sampdoria, but maybe that could just be in terms of the league, not really suiting his style. So they've got, the likes of Mbeumo, Johan Visa that can play there too. Signing, and this is where an important part in terms of Brentford, using their width in Aaron Hickey, who's a versatile fullback. We don't really see many of these players nowadays who are genuinely two-footed, who are just as strong on their left foot as they are with their right. That's what Aaron Hickey certainly is. And he's played left back. And I think he's even come out and he says he doesn't really know what foot he is himself. So that really shows how strong he is. Usman Dembele is another one, but he's not on that level yet. But he's certainly someone with a lot of potential, breaking into that Scotland squad and started playing football early at Hearts. When I look at their weaknesses, though, it's that lack of depth up front. Ivan Toney, beyond that, they don't have much goals coming from their strikers or their front line. Even in terms of strikers, they don't really have anyone beyond Ivan Toney as a proper number 9, because Force, he's been moved out, the Finnish international. And they definitely need to recruit up there. If Ivan Toney went missing for any period of time, I think it could mean serious trouble for Brentford. I'd like to hear Ed's thoughts on that in terms of when he predicts them, because beyond Ivan Toney, it's an issue. And even goals throughout the side, they don't provide it. They haven't scored enough, and they didn't do enough last season. There was a lot of set pieces. When I talk about their strengths, that's why they scored a lot from corners, headers, Vitaliano arriving into the box as well. And it was mainly Ivan Toney penalties. So they need more from the side, and they haven't replaced that creativity that they needed in the central area as of yet. Of course, there's still time in the transfer window, but losing Christian Eriksen and not replacing him with a player in that central area will kind of give them the same issues that they had last season, unless Thomas Frank decides to build and move on from that. Star player, once again, Ivan Toney has to be, because that's their talisman. That is who they're going to be relying on in terms of goals and creativity as well. We saw him take 2 different roles. At the start of the season, he was dropping in deep, linking up play with Mbeumo, and Mbeumo was the one getting in behind, but he actually hit the post more than any other player last season, Brian Mbeumo. So he can do both, Ivan Toney, which makes him an attractive proposition for teams higher up in the table competing for Europe. But if he does stay, they're going to have to certainly build around him. And one to watch, this was the player I chose last season. It took him a while to come back from that injury, and he didn't really get enough game time. And, when we've seen players, Ibira Eze, Pedro Neto, and players who pick up serious injuries, it may take them a while. But Josh Da Silva in that midfield, keep your eye out for him. Very much an entertaining midfielder to watch, because he's very good at bringing the ball out, progressing it, dribbling. close control. I think you'll like watching him, guys. So keep your eye out for Josh Da Silva, and he could potentially add creativity in that central position if he's given the license and they continue to play with that three at the back formation. So Ed, what's your thoughts on Brentford coming up this season?
Yeah, I have reservations about them. There's a massive Christian Eriksen shaped hole in their midfield and in their team. Doing the previews as we did last year, the difference in the stats that were after the second game of Christian Eriksen, he was literally adding XG and XA, so expected assists and goals were literally going up by like 0.75. They were flying up. The difference was unbelievable. Whether or not a team like Brentford, with the reach that they have, the money that they have, could find a player like Eriksen is obviously very difficult. You'd need to go young and go for a bit of a long shot. So I said towards Christmas time last year, when we started doing the preview show every week, that they had shades of Hull City from way back when, and Christian Eriksen was their Giovanni. And I'm going with the second season syndrome. I've got them finishing 19th too. I think they're going to be found out. I'm concerned about only Tony up front. I'm still not 100% sold on him. I don't know if his movement with the ball is sharp enough to be any higher than a team in and around the bottom half of the Premier League. And I don't know if they're going to create enough chances even for him other than set pieces.
Wow, big shout there from Ed. I think that's the biggest. I've not seen anyone else really go for Brentford to get relegated, but Matt does agree with you. He says, I see second season syndrome for Brentford this season. So yeah, you got someone agreeing with you in the comments right there. King says Brentford's strengths is the teamwork and manager. Certainly, they do have that togetherness and that community culture around the club. Weakness is the squad depth and creativity. So yeah, kind of like what I was saying there. Starman Ivan Toney. Indeed. Wes Burton, Brentford, definite strength is their manager and work ethic, similar to what and all teamwork, similar to what King said there. Don't give up, but lack depth in strikers for sure. Brentford will finish higher than Everton, I reckon. Maybe 16th, says King. Westbird says 15th, so in and around the same area there. And a great player to watch, Mr. T. Yep, Josh Da Silva. You know what? He's someone who came through the Arsenal Academy as well, so I had to get my little bias in there. But he's very good.
He's good on the ball, left hand. He can go left and right. He's got a nice little shimmy, nice little swivel. Hopefully, after a very truncated season coming back from that injury.
Yeah.
I hope so. And Brentford, what a great community club. Even there, we discussed it on Eagle Eye Football. Subscribe if you're not subscribed to them. They're like 9 away from 1,000 subs. We talked about how like they've even kept their home shirt for 2 seasons to keep their fans from not having to fork out 50 quid every year, because you want to buy the shirt even though you know realistically it's going to look very similar to the last shirt that you had,
especially home ones.
So that's just the kind of club they are. So I do like them. I like the manager. He seems very frank. Didn't even mean that pun, but I'll take it. But I think they're going to struggle this year.
I think the opposite. I do think that they will recruit up top and add some more creativity in goals. I think they will finish 14th. I don't see them having as good as a season as last towards the end or going on that similar run, because Christian Eriksen was an international level and just bordering world-class performance, what he was putting in there. So yeah, Christian Eriksen, I think he'll be a miss. And big up Red Devil, you're the team that got him. I'm doing well, hope you are too. So I think they will miss Christian Eriksen in that midfield and the creativity and just the presence that he gives into that side. But there's teams below them who are worse. So I've gone with Brentford in 14th place. This will start to take shape as we get towards the end, people. So yeah, if you're a little bit confused right now, don't worry.
Stick with us.
Stick with us and it'll be worth it. So yeah, make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't done so already, people. If you're new, you're definitely welcome into the TTF right there. King saying, Ed with a dad joke, he didn't even fake a smile. Oh, you see, with a Frank. Yeah.
I didn't even mean it. Until I said it. So I'll take it anyway, but I didn't mean it.
And Richie saying Brentford will survive. So we've got a split in the comments.
That's the channel, by the way, guys. If you're not subscribed to that Eagle Eyed Football, they're like 10 away from 1,000 subs. So get in on it.
There you go, people. You know what to do. And Ed, bring us our next team in Brighton and Hove Albion. What a great segue.
Stick around, Rich. Stick around,
Brighton. I know.
So very, very similar for me with what I said about Arsenal. You got the continuity. We're both big Potter stands as well, so we rate the manager. I rate their scouting. If you look at all of the players they brought in that either have gone on to do better things, or players like Cucurella, who potentially could be upsetting the apple cart a little bit at the minute with his transfer request. The scouting for Brighton is brilliant. They obviously have to go out and about and search because, with all due respect, Brighton, other than the Premier League status, aren't going to offer much else to prospective players. So they need to spread their net. Weaknesses, I said it for the last team. Goals. We all know Brighton are the XG kings. They create goals and don't stick them in the back of the net. Whether or not they've improved that this year, who knows? There's when you're still relying on Danny Welbeck in 2022-23, as much as I love that boy Welbs, you shouldn't be relying on him now to come in and sort of prop up the goals like he did towards the end of last year. So for me, areas of improvement is not necessarily the creative of chances, because I think they were 5th last year in XG, and the year before they were like bizarrely like 7th or 8th in that season. It's nuts the amount of XG that they have, which is expected goals if you're not a nerd like me. So that's big chances that are created. Star player for me, I think Leandro Trossard is a fantastic player. He is Premier League quality. The star player for me with Trossard, but it comes with the caveat of he is up there with some of the major reasons for why they don't put the ball in the back of the net enough. He's played 100 games exactly for Brighton in the Premier League and only got 18 goals and 11 assists. So that is, it's not good enough to be your main creative output. And the biggest thing for me with him was he created 16 big chances. So that's 16 almost anything over 0.9. So that means that 9 times out of 10, that chance that Trossard created should have turned into a goal became a miss. And he was also 16 chances created that he missed like that, and 16 chances he missed that should have been a goal that was 9 times out of 10 a goal. So that's 32 goal interactions that he should, in inverted commas, if you believe the stats, have scored or set up. And if you add even half of those to what he's done, you're looking at a goal contribution 1 every 2-3 games, which for a team like Brighton would be out of this world. And my one to watch breakthrough player, this has to be the year for Tereak Lamptey. We can't keep saying, he's a good right back, he's a good right wing back, he's a player. He has to show it. He has to stay fit. He has to nail down that right side of the defence. Also, he's changed not changed his allegiance. He's chose Ghana. This is his push for a World Cup place. This has to be his breakout year to get to the World Cup, to show people what he can do, to show that Chelsea made a mistake letting him go. So for me, he has to be the one to watch this year. So that's Brighton.
Brilliant shout. You know what? Tereak Lamptey, he does need to do it. Actually, I'm not calling him Tereak. That's how my name was previously spelled as well. So Tereak Lamptey. Yeah.
What does he prefer, by the way? Do you know? Is it Tereak or Tereak?
I think it is. Yeah.
Cool.
I think so. I just have to know. He's mainly his religion of his parents or himself.
This was the player I couldn't think of, King. Yeah, Undav. Yeah, that's the hope. That's their hope, isn't it?
King was talking about him the other day. As well, yeah, because Undav, they signed him from Royal. It was Royal Sporting Union in Belgium. Yeah, it's gonna be big step up though in the Premier League. We've seen it with Sambi Lokonga. So yeah, that big step to the Premier League, it will be huge. But Brighton are generally good with their recruitment, and look at Rich there. No bias at all, just going straight Brighton getting relegated. So yeah, before we get into our predictions, King says strengths, Potter, weakness, sharpness in front of goals, star player, Trossard, one to watch. Undav. So yeah, a lot of pressure on Undav to do well. T-Dog's gone for Brighton in 15th. Mr. 200 has gone for Brighton in 16th. So in and around the same positions there. And then we've got Brighton 16th as well. Agreeing with you, Mr. 200. And then we've got Lamptey will be fit for the World Cup. We'll have to see, because he does pick up he does like a hamstring injury. So he's certainly going to have to improve there. But Ed, where have you gone for Brighton now in your prediction? I think I can remember.
I went quite high, I think. I put them ninth.
You did indeed put them ninth. Yeah.
I mean, the one thing I will agree with the Rich there is their kit is awful. It's different, but I don't rate it. But I've gone for them to be ninth.
Yeah, good shout. What's your main reason for that? Because that's a high position, given the, if they lose Cucurella and Bissouma and they've already lost,
Yeah. I continuity, the Potter factor for me. They've brought in a striker that scored goals. I'm also, I think at some point, players like McAllister, Trossard, they have to put more in an output. They have to. They can't carry on creating the chances they create and not scoring them. I rate their defence. I rate their manager. So I've got them finishing quite comfortably. I don't think they're going to flirt with, the European places, and I don't think they're going to flirt with relegation either. I think they're just going to be in and around where they should be, which is mid-table with the players they have. Bissouma is a big miss, however. Bissouma is a big miss.
Yeah. I think Rich is only rating part of there. Big up, Rich, man. But Red Devil's gone for them in 14th. And do you know what? I'm not too far off of your prediction, Red Devil, because I have actually gone for Brighton to finish in 11th, though. Was it 11th? Yes, it was 11th. I have gone for Brighton to finish in 11th. And I do think they will have a slight regression, not really too much, because Brighton will certainly take that. And Graham Potter, I just think he's a good enough manager, and Brighton are very good in their recruitment. I see Moises Caicedo and Enoch and Wepu taking the mantle from Yves Bissouma, and then with Cucurella, I do think that they will use Lamptey a lot more, and he'll have a lot more responsibility going forward, which is where, he kind of got restricted a little bit. Veltman was playing out on that right, and then Cucurella was doing the majority of the attacking. Now they'll kind of switch their balance to that right side, maybe go a little bit more defensive on the left, and then we'll see it right there. And also Mwepu can offer an outlet on that left side as well. So the next team that I'm going to be speaking about is, in fact, Chelsea. It's going to be an interesting one talking about Chelsea, guys, their strengths and weaknesses, because they've not had a great window so far. Let's be honest, they underwhelmed last season too. A lot of us expected Chelsea to be in and around that the title contention. Didn't work out that way with the signings that they made. There's a lot of pressure on them. And yeah, they don't really seem to have addressed that in this window. But I will talk to you about their strengths with Chelsea. Definitely, they are strong in creativity, ironically, in their midfield and attack, but they can also create from their wing backs as well. That's their biggest strength going forward. And we saw when Reece James and Ben Chilwell were fit, they were their biggest goal scoring threats as well as their creative outlets. They do have plenty of players in that sense, and we kind of forget about Chelsea when we talk about them in their numbers that they have in their squad depth, because there was at points, where Arsenal were looking at them last season, but we just can't compete with the players that they had. And the number now Arsenal have developed, and maybe we'll see there, but that's what they do have, and I think they are good in that sense in creating chances. But they also have a good manager as well in Thomas Tuchel. Decent manager, and you know what you'd probably say he's in and around, up there with the likes of Conte in terms of what he's achieved. Maybe Conte is better, but he's in there. He's in the top 4 managers in the league in my eyes. And they do have an experienced team. Adding Koulibaly in there, an experienced defender at international level and the European level as well. So they do have a lot of experience. So if it does get in sticky situations, they do have a good solid core to rely on in that sense, especially with Thiago Silva. They're also weaknesses, of course, it's definitely their goal scorers. They haven't addressed that situation as of yet. Armando Broja, it's a high risk if you're going to be relying on him at this stage. Of course, they're in for Benjamin Sesko as well, who's also been linked to Manchester United, the RB Salzburg player. still a teenager, 19 years of age. A lot of pressure for him too. So they certainly need to address that at some stage, especially if they lose Timo Werner, who didn't hit the heights that he's expected to when he initially came in. But that's another few goals that they're going to be missing and chances in terms and the work that he does. So they really need to improve that there. Also, a little thing that I don't really think anyone's mentioned is their defense in terms of a midfielder that excels in defensive actions. It's hard to, you can't say Kante's a defensive midfielder because he doesn't play in the same areas that a traditional Rodri or Fernandinho or Fabinho do. But apart from Kante, they don't have someone whose like expertise in midfield is winning the ball back, breaking up the play. Kovacic, very much a ball progressor. Jorginho, a deep line playmaker in that sense. Loftus-Cheek enters the final third a lot. Conor Gallagher, someone who likes to play in the final third and win the ball back up high, but not necessarily from a deeper midfield area. So I still think Chelsea are struggling in that position with Kante's fitness proving an issue. Star player, have to go for Reece James. He's their best creative player in that sense, creating so many chances, whipping balls into the box as he does on that right side. Also as an eye for goal, you know, he's got that wonderful right foot. Reece James, excellent right back, one of the best in the world in my eyes. So yeah, for sure, and gets up in those advanced areas with the system and formation that Tuchel likes to play with the wing backs. So he has a lot more freedom in that sense to go forward, adds versatility as well, can play as that right-sided centre-back in the back three, and he's also good at playing at right-back too if Tuchel does decide to go to a conventional back four and still maintain those goals, creative outlet that he does. One to watch, I'm sure Ed will be happy to hear this. It is Mason Mount. And my reason for Mason Mount is I do think he's disrespected in terms of what he does produce in terms of goals and assists. But I can hear the criticism for Mason Mount because he doesn't do it on a consistent basis enough. And he does seem to be a little bit of a flat track bully in terms of the goals and the assists where he does pick them up against, aka Norwich last season in the 7-0 win. But Mason Mount, he definitely is a reliable player that every manager, well, Thomas Tuchel and Frank Lampard have seen him and played him consistently. But to get to that next level, which he certainly can, he's got the ability to, we've seen it, he needs to have consistency and add that into his game. As he's in his fourth year now as a first teamer at Chelsea. So this is where you really need to be cementing your place and be one of the best players in the league if Chelsea are going to get to the place where they want to be. Let me know your thoughts on that, Ed.
Yeah, I don't think I disagree with anything. With Mason Mount, I know I might have said previously that I don't rate him as much as a lot of people do. For me, it's don't tell me, show me with Mason Mount. He's definitely got enough in the locker. He's clearly talented on the ball. He's definitely got an eye for goal. But yeah, goals against lower Premier League teams, yeah, low-hanging fruit. He needs to show me in games that mean something. With the way that Chelsea's transfer window has well, whatever they're doing, whether they're at panic stations because they're buying anyone that anyone else is interested in, or whatever else is they're doing. I'm excited to see what Sterling looks like in that team. Personally, I'm not overly convinced that he'll have anywhere near the amount of chances that he would have obviously got at Man City. So I'm interested to see him develop as a player and be involved more in the setting up of chances and the team progression of the ball, rather than just stealing in at the back post to slot it away. I've got them out of the top four this season, though, too. I'm not overly convinced Tuchel's going to be there by the end of the season as well. That's another hot take from me. He has a reputation for falling out with people. He doesn't look overly happy in some of the things that I've seen or read. So I've got them finishing fifth.
There you go. And I've actually got Chelsea finishing in fourth. And yes, the current state of affairs isn't good at Chelsea, but I do think they are addressing that. Cucurella, someone that they're looking to get. I think he improves
because someone else is interested in him.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. That's Chelsea's transfer strategy. But adding Cucurella, and then they're also keeping an eye on De Jong too. I do think they are going to do their business late. And this is what I'm going to say to Arsenal fans in particular. We have to remember, at this point last season, we thought we were finishing well outside the top 4. And there was still a lot more signings that we needed to make and players that needed to come into the side and bed in a little bit more. So I think we have to remember that with Chelsea and the quality that they already do have. They are going for the right players, I believe, in the window, maybe not being able to secure them, but they're showing that ambition, and having Champions League football will just attract the right talent that will be available towards the end. Believe me, in the transfer window, we ain't seen the end of it yet, people. There's still a lot of moving pieces. Once that De Jong piece in the jigsaw moves, wherever he goes to, that will open up a lot, because Barcelona have got this transfer market on a noose. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's
and
crazy.
the other thing with the transfer window is, because of the season starting early, you are going to see some teams panic when they don't do very well in the first 2, 3, 4 games. What do we need to buy? And all of a sudden, they're throwing money left, right, and centre, especially Premier League teams that, even though people say that they don't have it, will find it.
Yeah, there you go, right there. Let's see what you're saying in the chat. Chelsea in disarray. I think 8th, says Mr. 200. David saying Chelsea to finish 3rd. Big up yourself, David, as well. Big up Solo as well. Big up yourself, Errol. And then we've also got Chelsea to finish 6th, says Rich. Thank you for the 30 likes as well, everyone. T-Dog agreeing with Mr. 200 and saying 8th. King saying Chelsea finishing 5th. Too many issues. No worries, Westbird, no worries, but that's well done for Adam Peaty for that one. And that's what we like to see for you as well, Rich. I don't think he'll play the game, but it's a good thing he's back in training. Mr. W says Chelsea 3rd, but I think they may miss out on top 4 this season. Westbird, it'll be interesting because you've gone for Chelsea and Arsenal to miss out in the top 4. So yeah, I wonder who takes that spot. Don't say the team I think he's going to be that you think you're going to say. But Chelsea, weakness is everything. Strength, nothing. Star Tuchel showing his allegiances there. King is. Red Devil Yannick says need more signings for Chelsea. Top 4 in my opinion, and sell Timo Werner. Yeah, I agree with you there. We'll move on into the next side now. And Rich, it is your boys. It is the Eagles in Selhurst Park in Crystal Palace. And Ed, he's done the research for us in terms of the strengths, weaknesses, assess their squad, and yeah, let us know.
Yeah, so Rich, if you're here, tell me if I'm right or wrong with this. So strengths, I've gone for the wing play, Zaha, Elise, and the attack in general. You've got Mateta with the season under his belt, Edouard with the season under his belt, and I mean Benteke's Benteke. He'll be around, he'll be a body, but that attacking play that we've seen, for countless seasons now, is a couple of seasons now better off with the players that have got. We've got Zaha always produces. Elise was flying. He's the one to watch, and I'll talk about him a little bit more later on. Weaknesses. Now I know that some of the Palace faithful have said that they feel like they've addressed the Gallagher hole. I don't know if they had. Decore arrival, obviously, is a good signing. He looks like he's a good player, but I don't think he fits the same role that Gallagher left. I think there's a lack of energy and box-to-box midfielder role in that Crystal Palace central midfield. I don't think you should be relying on some of the aging midfielders that they've got, unless Patrick Vieira and Rich Eagle-Eyed Football, I'll bow down to your much, much greater knowledge on your team if the system's changed a little bit. But what Gallagher gave them last year was not just sort of the output, which was very good, but was the energy, the box-to-box, the all-action midfielder. I don't know. And if that's not there, then the centre-forwards, Mateta, Benteke, Odsonne Edouard, although he may play on the left, especially if Zaha does go, they need to step up and create more. I rate the defence as well, talking about their strengths. I think the starting back 4 is relatively good. I think they've got a very good left back in Tyreek Mitchell. Gahey, Anderson, very good centre-back partnership. Right back, slightly weaker, but I know they've tried to address that. Although I'm here all day for Joel Ward. I think he's the nicest player in the Premier League. Star player, very obvious. It's Wilf. He's the Crystal Palace legend. Again, Eagle-Eyed Football tell me if I'm wrong, but he'd probably be the best ever Crystal Palace player there's ever been. So I'd imagine he's a living legend. His output is unbelievable, especially in some of the teams that Crystal Palace have put out in the Premier League over his career. Obviously, they are a much more established and much more consistent team than they were a few years ago. So Wilf, he doesn't need me to talk about him too much. The breakthrough player for me is Michael Olise, and he's up there for me, the top 5 players I'm most excited to see this year. That kid's ability is on the ball to stop it dead. It's just something I want to stand up and applaud, even though I have no dog in the fight with Crystal Palace. And if you look at last season for him, 26 appearances. He was involved in 7 wins. His assists were 7. His goals were not. His assists and goals were 2 and 2. But of those 26 appearances, 14 of them were off the bench. If this kid starts this year, and I know he's out with a knock at the minute, but back in training, I could see him breaking 8 and 10. I think he's that good. I rate him so highly. I think Crystal Palace are either onto a winner there or onto one of those players that will grow and they'll sell on again and reinvest in the money. And also strengths for me, just a quick one. Patrick Vieira, I think last year showed that there was more to him than just being the old Premier League legend. He showed he could adapt. He showed he could stand up for his team. He showed he could change the team when he needed to. And what you're not going to have with someone like him as your manager is he's got no room for egos. He can just say, do you know what, I've won. So I think that's going to be a massive, massive influx for Palace this year. Another season, that continuity is there again. And I still think he deserves an awful lot of respect for the dramatic change from a Hodgson 11 men behind the ball, and if you can get a 12th man on, to the team that they played last year. Underrated, I think, what he did last year. Top 3 managers of the season, possibly top 2 for me. So if you take out Pep and Klopp, of course. I think Palace will be comfortable. Palace will be fine. They'll be one to watch this year, potential dark horse for doing something special, I think, this year, if they address that midfield.
Well said indeed. Rich has said strengths, Eze's back, weakness is right back if Richards doesn't play there. Starman in Zaha, and the one to watch in Czech Decore. Yeah, the one that the Crystal Palace fans are going to keep a keen eye on indeed. Eze will go into the 10. Schlupp will go box to box in the meantime until we get another midfielder in. David Lee says Palace to finish 8th. Westbird says Eagle strength is definitely their style of play and having the mighty Vieira. Red Devil Yannick has also gone for Eze as well, linking back to what Ed said in terms of the strengths right there. CP strengths is Patrick Vieira. Weakness is their goalkeeper. Starman one is Zaha, and the one to watch is Eze again. You know what? We're going to have to go with our predictions in terms of where we think they're going to finish. Ed, we both went with the same position for Crystal Palace. Yeah,
Rich, don't look.
We went for 10th. That's not bad.
I know, but it's under you know who, isn't it? For me, I put Brighton.
Yeah. For you, not for me. I put Brighton in 11th. Don't you worry about that, Rich. No, I actually put Brighton in 12th. I think. Yeah, I need to correct this. I need to get my predictions right. But I know Crystal Palace is ahead of Brighton, Rich. So don't you worry. So Ed, he did put Brighton ahead of them in 9th, and I've gone for them in 10th. And so I've put you ahead of Brighton, Rich. Sorry. Remember that when
I am excited for Eze as well. I think there was a big miss last year. I think he's an incredibly exciting player, so it'll be good to see him back.
Definitely right there. Let's go into the next side. And that next side is in Everton. We don't have Matt, who's not currently in the stream, but if he's watching it back, we've got Everton fans and any more Everton fans watching. Let us know your thoughts on this, because when I looked at Everton in terms of their strengths in their side, when I looked at it, they've got some solid Premier League players in there. At the end of the day, bringing in a James Tarkowski, Dwight McNeil, who were the star men, really, of Burnley, and Abdoulaye Doucouré. Dele Alli's been playing in the Premier League as well. But when I'm looking at their side, they've got experience in there too, Premier League experience, which, with everybody, when they're talking about Everton, they're putting them lower in the table. But that's the advantage that they do have. Also, what could be a strength for them is having the low expectations around their side. Nobody's really particularly rating Lampard. Nobody's rating their signings as of yet, which, could be a recipe for overachievement if they use it well and Lampard uses it and gets the camaraderie of the squad together. And you know what? They are able to replace the goals and, make the side a little bit better that they've lost in Richarlison. And when I'm looking at their competitors in that bottom half to relegation part of the table, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, if he's fit, he's definitely probably the best striker in that lower half of the table. In my eyes, yeah, I think he is. He can score goals. He can score goals in the air, get in the box, run the channels. He's got the pace. He's like a complete forward in that sense, and everything that you want from a striker in that part of the table. He can be a counter-attacking striker. You can cross balls into the box for him. You can even get him to hold it up himself. So yeah, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I think if he can stay fit, he'll be a plus for them. Weaknesses, though, there is a few that we're looking at. That central midfield. I know they're about to sign Idrissa Gana Gueye, but that if it does happen, it could improve their defensive ability in midfield. But when you're looking at that midfield, it's not just defensively, creatively, scoring goals. They do not have enough in there. They certainly need to sign more central midfielders. I know they've addressed their wingers in bringing in Dwight McNeil, but they are very much like a donut, nothing in the middle right there. It's clear to see. And yeah, the question marks around Idrissa Gana Gueye, he is coming towards the latter end of his career. He had a very successful spell there, but we're going to have to wait and see how that pans out after a few more years outside the Premier League. Star player, though, it is their new signing. It is someone from Burnley, but it's James Tarkowski that I've gone for. It is so vitally important, that he improves their defense from last season. They leaked way too many goals from another former Burnley player that they signed in, Michael Keane. Tarkowski, even in possession of the ball, he's a very good passer of the ball. And I remember King talking about it when we're talking about scouting and how clubs scouted, and James Tarkowski wasn't particularly known for his aerial ability when he was at Brentford, but on the ball he was excellent. He can play on that left side of defense as well, so versatile in there. I think he's the best centre back they've had since Phil Jagielka, in my eyes. So yeah, he's definitely been a good sign in there, and he's someone that they're going to rely on. And the one to watch, many of you wouldn't have heard of him, is Lewis Warrington. He's actually another product from their academy. We saw Anthony Gordon come through last season for them. Lewis Warrington, he was on loan at Tranmere Rovers last season, but he had rave reviews there. So yeah, he was all around in Merseyside, the talk of the town there. He's a midfielder who adds a lot of energy, and he's mature beyond his years. He's 19 and he played at those lower divisions. And I do think it takes a lot of you do, I think, to thrive in the lower divisions. If you're a central midfielder, especially, you have to have that maturity and to be able to get in there, mix it in with those players, but also show your quality. He also has an eye for goal. He scored a cracking goal. Go search it out. Lewis Warrington's goal for Tranmere. I think he was against Swindon, in fact. But yeah, definitely a one to watch. I think he'll come to the side. I saw him come on against Arsenal pre-season. He was pretty impressive in that second half. He was better than a lot of Arsenal midfielders on that pitch, and he could potentially improve their goal scoring from that central area. So Lewis Warrington, one to watch. No, not many of you would have heard of him, but yeah, another one that could be coming through the Everton academy right there. Ed, let me know your thoughts on how Everton are going to do this season.
I don't know. They're such a difficult team, aren't they? They have some players. I mean, I've never heard of that kid that you just talked about. Hands up, never heard of him. But players like Anthony Gordon, if they can work out some of the obvious kinks in their game, who knows what he could kick on to be this year. Richarlison is such a huge loss for them. What he offered by himself is incredible. Everton did not create chances last year, and he still managed to come away with 11, 12 goals, I think, by the end of the season, which is pretty incredible, really, for what they were and where they ended up. The jury's still very much out on Lampard. What's he going to be like? Who knows? But one thing he did last year was galvanise them towards the end of the year. He sort of took the flack from the players and sort of took the burdens on himself. But we'll see how he is tactically this year. Yeah, I mean, if you have a fit Dominic Calvert-Lewin for 25, 28 games, you're going to end up with, 12, 13 goals. That should be enough to keep them up. But is that where Everton want to be? They have been so badly run these last few years. You could argue with 1-2 more signings, they could finish anywhere between 7th to 19th. They are a bit of a Jekyll and a Hyde all over the team kind of club. And the way they're being run is I think, very much of a detriment to what they're showing on the field. They don't look like the same side that Carlo Ancelotti had. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I agree with you there. In terms of prediction, where have you put them, Ed?
I think I put them safe from memory. I put them 16th. 16th is where I put Everton. So a slight improvement on last year. Matt, if you do watch this back later, big Everton fan, big member of the TTF. 16th, I think it seems like all I need to say for this whole video is goals. There's a lack of goals potentially in that Everton team. And there's an awful lot of, there could be too much asked of players like Dwight McNeil, Anthony Gordon, Damari Gray to bring from sort of the wide positions. So we'll see. But I do rate the Tarkowski pickup. That's one of the underrated signings of the off-season for me. I really rate him. And his ability on the ball is, like you said, very, very much maligned.
Definitely. Rich has gone for Everton could be in big trouble. B&B in the place as well. Everton's strength holding up the league. Don't see Everton getting top 10, says Steffi. Everton finishing in 15th, says David. Mr. W says 9th or 10th, but I'm thinking 14th or lower. So Mr. W's gone for a relatively successful season for Everton in that sense. King has said Everton are going down. Strengths, nothing. Weakness is their manager, star players, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and he says they will finish in 19th. So that's the first one in relegation. And DCL's injured, I believe, says David. We'll be able to confirm this for tomorrow when we do our research for the Premier League preview show, because that's what we're going to do tomorrow for the fixtures coming up on the weekend. King says that Frank is getting sacked in the morning. Mr. 200 says Everton are just about going to survive and go to 17th. David says Warrington ain't nowhere near Everton. Yeah, I know what you mean. It's not, David. You're all right. Weaknesses is lost Richarlison. 18th, and Everton will sack Lampard. A lot of people are thinking that, Yannick, for sure. And big up Farzad Gaming saying Lampard will pull a Chelsea. Well, Farzad, question is he going to pull a Chelsea in the first season or the second season where he eventually got sacked? We'll have to wait and see. Let me know your thoughts there. But I've gone for one place higher than you, Ed. I've gone for Everton to finish in 15th, which I think is David's prediction as well. I do think they will finish in that bottom half of the table. They will be safe. Who knows if Frank Lampard's going to be there? If I was to predict is Frank Lampard going to survive the season, I'm going to say yes. I am going to say yes. I do think that the bar is set so low. I don't think the signings have been good for Everton as well, so you can't really blame Frank Lampard in terms of that. They haven't brought enough in terms of recruitment as of yet, but I think the goodness and atmosphere, and if he can manage that properly, and he just has a little bit about him which he's shown in keeping them up, because remember they were down and out at one point, but he managed to scrape that win against Crystal Palace. So he can draw something out of them. But yeah, if it all goes pear-shaped, then it could all unravel from there. Listen to Red Devil Yannick right there. Thank you so much. So make sure to like and subscribe and share the stream. Thank you. Who is scoring when DCL is injured and Richarlison is gone? It's an interesting question. It's difficult to see a goal scorer in that sense. When you're looking, you're going to have to hope Anthony Gordon's goal output improves, as well as, Townsend's injured. So yeah, McNeil, he's another one.
Yeah, Damari Gray.
Gray.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem, King, and that's why I've got them as low as they have. I just think there's going to be teams that are not going to be able to eke out a few draws and a few, late wins and that kind of stuff that I just think that the Everton players will do. But you could argue me, like I said, anywhere below where I've put them as well, and I don't think I'd be overly concerned if you'd said that.
Exactly. Let's move on to the next side, people. Ed's got another promoted side in Fulham. Been promoted Marco Silva, different manager coming into the league.
Yeah.
Some decent recruitment. Ed, talk us away.
Yeah, so on that recruitment, that's some of the strengths that I've talked about. Their recruitment, they haven't done what they did last time. They haven't brought in 56 players for ridiculous amounts of money. They've gone and looked at what's available, and they brought in 2 players that on paper have Premier League quality in midfield, in Pereira from Man United, who's obviously spent lots of time out on loan in different places and the odd game for Man United, and Paulinho from Sporting Lisbon, I think it was. I know Wolves were very interested in him, but Fulham were willing to pay a lot more than Wolves were. Maybe Tereak will talk about that later. So strengths for me is the more sensible recruitment this time around. Weaknesses for me, the defence doesn't scream Premier League quality to me. If you look at their squad, I think it gets weaker the further you get back. Not overly sold on their fullbacks either. Robinson, I think, showed some signs towards the end of the last time they were in the Premier League, so we'll see. Their centre-backs, I'm not overly sure if they're Premier League quality, but for me, the biggest weakness, I'm very much unsold on Marco Silva. We've seen him flame out, get his head turned, let the criticism get to him far too quickly for me. I'm not overly convinced, although he did a very good job. Obviously, Fulham last year came top with a bullet. And another potential strength or weakness is what Mitrovic are we going to get? Are we going to get the Mitrovic that's got 85 goals in 126 championship games? Or are we going to get the Mitrovic that has got 24 goals in 104 Premier League games? Which one are we going to get? He needs to score. Without his goals, they've lost Carvalho, of course, who's gone to Liverpool. There's a potential there that there's going to be an issue with getting that ball in the back of the net. And for me, Fulham, if their weakness is defence, like I think it is, they're not going to be able to outscore teams, and they're not going to be able to, unless they outscore teams, they're not going to keep it a clean sheet at the back to nick a 1-0 or to nick some 0-0s and eke out some points. And the one to watch breakthrough player, either Anthony Robinson, I think we saw the American. He had a good season last season. I know they also have Brian as well as a left back, so I know they alternate. But he impressed me last time he was in the Premier League. But I think it's time to see what one of these Man United youngsters that's probably not as young as you think he is, Pereira, what's he going to do? He's going to be the attacking pivot in that central midfield. Paulinho is definitely a ball progressor. He's a Portuguese staple midfielder. He does the dirty work. He gets in and around and progresses the ball. So I didn't feel like he was a one to watch in terms of he probably won't do stuff that makes people sit up and watch, whereas Pereira potentially has that chance. I think so much of this Fulham season hinges on the two main controversial points. Is Marco Silva going to be good enough this time? And is Mitrovic going to bring that incredible international goal scoring record, over 50 goals for Serbia? And we're talking a goal in the Premier in the Championship. You're talking a goal every 100 minutes or something. Is the stats that I saw, which is nuts. So pretty much a goal a game. for me, I think a lot hinges on those two men. They're probably the two main men at Fulham. So what's Marco Silva going to be like and what's Mitrovic going to be like in the Premier League this year? Spoiler, I don't think it'll be enough. You're on mute, too.
My bad. Rookie again. Bye-bye, Fulham. Marco Silva is worse than Frank, says King. David says that Fulham are going to finish in 19th. Fulham's strengths is their history, weakness, lack of quality, star player, no one, and one to watch. Pereira. Steffi, you know what she's thinking about, and just Pereira as well. One to probably put in your side in FPL, 4.5 million people. Got a very good keeper.
Good cheap option.
Yeah, exactly. Good bench fodder. Got a very good keeper. If they don't score 19th, don't 19th. Yeah, Burn Leno. He's a very good keeper indeed. Good point there.
Has that been confirmed now, has it?
But it's all but confirmed. Everything's agreed. Everything's in place. It's just waiting on the confirmation from the club. King says that Fulham are going to finish rock bottom. Steffi says second bottom. Yep, I know. 18th or 17th, Kevin and Babu. Good player. Yeah, very good. It's a good signing, Kevin and Babu. Former Newcastle. And big up yourself. I got the name.
Yeah, don't read it out.
I know. Big up you guys as well. You're not catching me out, okay? But yeah, the next one. All right, I think me and Ed have both gone for Fulham in 18th. So you've gone. So your relegation.
That's my bottom three.
That's your bottom three. My bottom three hasn't been set yet, but I've also gone for Fulham in 18th. So I do think there will be a team in between Fulham and Bournemouth. We'll have to wait and see who that is, but we will move on into the next team now, and that is going to be Leeds United. So Manchester United fans, I'm sure you're not too happy about Leeds, but I will run through their squad and their strengths and weaknesses. Right now, we've got 31 people watching live. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you smash that like button and subscribe if you're new. You know you're always welcome on the TTF. We'll bring you plenty of Premier League content like this on the channel. We've been going for an hour and a half already, and we still need to get through quite a few teams.
Yeah, we're about halfway, so stick around if you can.
Stick around if you can, indeed. In strengths, it's certainly for Leeds in their recruitment. When I look at this Leeds United side, they have added some Champions League quality players in the likes of Christensen, Brendan Aronson, both played in the Champions League for Salzburg previously. Luis Sinisterra is a very good signing from Feyenoord, and he impressed. And that was his first season there, and he got into the Europa Conference League final. And they've signed Mark Roca from Bayern Munich, and then you're looking at Tyler Adams from Leipzig, and all these players have competed in European football at some level, and a lot of them in the Champions League. And I think to sign that caliber of player is the best that I think Leeds can do if you're looking at it realistically, if they're looking to replace Calvin Phillips and Rafinha. It's good recruitment. I do think they've improved aspects of their squad for sure, but they're still, in terms of the weaknesses, this is a nice little segue. Still haven't addressed that striker with Patrick Bamford. There's a lot of reliance on him to rediscover his form that he had in the 2020 season, the first season in 2020-2021. Due to the lack of depth up top, they're going to really be relying on Patrick Bamford. But due to that lack of depth, I might slide in my one to watch already. Joel Geldhart, keep an eye out for him. I think he's impressed. Every time I've seen him play, he looks so lively. He just looks like a threat. And he's even got that little bit of, X factor to his game as well. Who was it against? Can you remember, Ed? That goal where he did that nice little sight on the byline. Can you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it was towards the end of the season, wasn't it? I know he got
in the 90th minute.
Yeah, yeah. Was it Brentford? Was it Brentford? I'm trying to remember who it was now, but he. I'll look it up while you still carry on talking. But he.
Yeah.
One of his first contributions was getting a 94th minute penalty against Wolves to pick up a vital point for them with a very similar move.
Yeah, there you go. He's got tight feet, and he did it against us as well. I believe he got a penalty against Ben White with that nice little feet. So yeah, Joe Gelhardt, one to watch. Also, in terms of their weaknesses, though, their centre-backs do not suit the style that Jesse Marsch wants to play. Jesse Marsch plays with a high line at the back. He's not as aggressive with his press as Bielsa was. From literally back to front. He does like to set traps a lot more for Leeds, but he does maintain a high line that, a lot of managers who have managed in Austria certainly do. And, with his pedigree as well, Jesse Marsch managing at obviously RB Leipzig as well in the German league and in Austria. So, yeah, certainly, as plays that high line. But that doesn't work with the likes of Liam Cooper, Diego Llorente, Robin Koch for my eyes. They need to get centre-backs who are a lot more mobile and able to cover the wide areas a lot more. Their star player, though, Luis Sinisterra. And the reason I've gone for him as their star player, he has to replace the goals and the assists that Rafinha did get for them. Rafinha single-handedly kept them up last season with Patrick Bamford and Calvin Phillips being injured for the majority of it. Luis Sinisterra has to hit the ground running. I know he's picked up an injury and he's a doubt for their first game, but his threat and his directness, his pace, his speed, it will be interesting to watch him. He will cause problems for many a fullback, whether he plays on the right or the left. Predominantly plays on the left, so we might see a lot of right backs getting turned. But yeah, keep your eye on Luis Sinisterra right there. Ed, where have you gone for Leeds in your prediction?
It was Norwich, by the way, the goal for Gelhardt.
Oh, that goal.
So I've got Leeds.
What are you saying for Leeds?
Leeds comfortable in 13th. I don't disagree with anything you've said. Rafinha's a big loss, of course, but they've done their business early, which I think is something we talked about last week on a video we did. And for me, I think that's always a good thing. Get it in early, see what the manager can do with those players, give them as much time as possible to sort of get the Bielsa out of them and get something else into them. So yeah, I think they're going to be 13th.
Do you know what? I agree with you that they're going to finish in that part of the table, but I think they're going to finish on the opposite end in 17th. I think they're just going to just about survive because there's going to be a team worse than them. I think there's so much pressure on Luis Sinisterra to perform, and players don't necessarily translate that form and ability from the Eredivisie so well. But look at that. Red Devil Yannick has gone for a complete opposite end of the spectrum and gone for 8th. Red Devil Yannick, join the Discord server because if you download Discord, if you don't have it, join. And I'd like to hear your predictions and see them written down so we can compare during the season and how these teams perform, because I've gone completely opposite. I think they're going to have a poor season. Once again, scrape it. And I don't see Jesse Marsch being there at the end of the season.
I'm imagining a United fan either typing that in on his computer or his phone with a shaking finger. That must have been difficult to put to history there on YouTube.
Tell me about it. But yeah, that's a high place. I want to see what everyone else is saying. King say kind of agreeing with me. The Leeds will struggle. Gone one place higher in 16th. Right there. So yeah, and he also thinks Joel Gelhardt will have a good season. Fantastic signing from Wigan right there. So yeah, one to watch. They call him they're calling Wayne Rooney. They're the next Wayne Rooney there at Leeds. So yeah, very high expectation. We'll move on into our next side though, but big up yourself as well, Bright. Nice seeing you in here. It's gone for Chelsea first. I'm guessing you're a Chelsea fan. But yeah, go check out what we said about Chelsea not too long ago. Go rewind in the video. And anyone that's watching, thank you for staying, and thanks for tuning in. And if you're watching it afterwards, thank you for staying with us for so long as well. But Ed is going to move into our next team, which is Leicester City.
So Leicester City strengths. I struggled with this, to be honest, especially with all the rumours recently about Maddison. Strengths is obviously Jamie Vardy, proven Premier League goal scorer with 100 goals there. Already he's in the 100 club. The potential there as well with the strengths is that players like Paxton Daka, will they improve as this year cracks on after a season in the Premier League? Weaknesses or areas of improvement, the defence, in particular the set pieces. 30% of all of the goals Leicester City conceded last year were from set pieces. That is a nut stat. It was 30 point something. I'm not a Brendan Rodgers fan. We've said that many times on this. I think he's a bit of a busted flush for me personally. Not overly convinced in his tactics. I'm not overly convinced in how he finishes seasons. And a huge weakness at the minute for Leicester is they are the only club in the entire Football League pyramid that haven't signed anybody. That's a huge, huge thing. Star player, Vardy, 30 games or more, he's probably going to get you 15, 16 goals, you'd think, with his track record. So he has to be the star player. I wrote down as a breakthrough player to start off with Maddison. So when I did this a couple of days ago, you look at Maddison, how he ended last season. He ended it with 18 goals, 12 assists in 53 appearances in all competitions. And that came with a very hard and difficult start to the season where he was sort of out of form, out of confidence. But with these new rumours about Newcastle and the potential signing there, and that Leicester are holding out for more money, will his head be in the right place if he sees the Newcastle project as somewhere to be? I don't know. So then when you're looking at the ones to watch, the obvious one is the guy that sounds like a National Trust place, Dewsbury Hall. He showed last year that he had sort of that Conor Gallagher effect, the box-to-box, the all-action midfielder. So it'll be interesting. And obviously we all know about Fofana. A fit Fofana is a centre-back that Chelsea, Barcelona, teams in Italy have all been sniffing around over the last few years. So there's potential for him to either put up or shut up this season. Obviously, last year he lost out to a horrible injury, very unfortunate. But we all know his quality there as either a centre-back or a defensive midfielder. I see him as a centre-back. There's potential as well for him to be one to watch. But the breakthrough player, I think it's time for Maddison to show that he isn't what I also thought about Mason Mount, as a bit of a flat track bully, and to show that maybe even if he does end up at Newcastle, will he be the next piece in that puzzle? He has all the ability, but he needs to get it right between the ears, which is one of the biggest factors in what makes a footballer go from being Premier League class to being higher than that. So that Leicester I have concerns. I think their biggest weakness or areas of improvement is definitely that lack of transfer input from this year, because they struggled last year and they haven't changed the team. That's huge.
Yeah. Very true right there. I think a big reason for Leicester and they're struggling is because of their financial fair play. Mm-hmm. Their squad is stacked. There's so many players they've got in that team, because a lot of them went out on loan last season with the new loan rules. They are forced to sell a lot of them, and it does look like James Maddison could possibly go into Newcastle. We will have to do this video updated. Don't you worry, we got something planned. Stay to the end to that if you want to learn about the rules that we've got coming up for that. But King says Leicester's strength is their club structure, star man Maddison. Weakness is their defence, and the one to watch is Patson Daka. He also reckons Leicester are going to finish 12th. And then Mr. 200 says Vardy getting too old, no signings, 13th. But the one thing with that, Mr. 200, Vardy will have a mid-season break, and that will help him in terms of his body. So yeah, that could be a benefit for Leicester in that sense. Ed, where have you gone? Where have you placed Leicester in your table?
I have placed Leicester 14th.
Wow. So you really don't see them having a successful season?
No, I don't. And if we were to do which manager do you think is going to leave first, I think he might be Brendan Rodgers.
Sack race. You think Brendan Rodgers is going to win the sack race?
Potentially, yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Do you know who's rumoured to replace James Maddison? Not sure how credible it is, but Husam Aouar, the one who was meant to be going to Arsenal.
Yeah, Arsenal, yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if that's a great replacement, but we'll have to wait and see. 9th or 11th says Red Devil Yannick. I haven't got my phone near me actually. I can't check it. But yeah, so I've gone for, in terms of Leicester, I've actually gone higher. I've gone for Leicester to finish in 9th. I do think Leicester will eventually have a good season. I think King's once again right in terms of their club structure. They did improve towards the latter end when they started getting their players fit. I think their fullbacks are excellent when fit in James Justin, Ricardo Pereira, Timothy Castagna. Luke Thomas had a decent spell covering in that left-back position as well. I think he's limited, but they've got depth in that position. Patson Daka, expect him to kick on as well, like King said, to be that eventual replacement for Jamie Vardy, quite similar stylistically. And I just think that they have enough quality to make that mid-table spot and claim that 9th position there. So next, into the next side that we're going to go for, you know it is, people. It is Liverpool. And you know what? I've got the honours of discussing Liverpool right now. And then Ed's got the other title favourites in there as well. But when I'm thinking about Liverpool, guys, you know, when we talked about club structure and continuity, that's exactly what Liverpool have as well. They have got that manager, Jurgen Klopp. He's always going to push them and squeeze every little bit of that juice out of the players. But then when you're looking at it, when people are talking about Sadio Mane leaving, I do think they've slowly replaced, not replaced, but they're slowly transitioning from Sadio Mane, bringing in Diogo Jota initially, then Luis Diaz, and bringing in Darwin Núñez. So that's 3 players essentially replacing Sadio Mane, and that improves their squad depth, which I think is currently the best in the league, to have so many players in that attacking line. A lot of midfielders in there too, even though a lot of people may say that's their area of weakness. They do have a lot of numbers in there, young players coming through in that position as well. And then their centre-back depth is the strongest it has been in a long time. So their squad depth, it could be key for Liverpool if they are going to challenge Manchester City or, you know, give them their best shot of winning the league, is relying on their squad depth. The weakness, however, is I think it's going to take time for Darwin Núñez to adapt more to life in England than it will to life in sorry right there. My mom's left the door open whilst cooking. That's why the smoke alarm's going off. Because I heard the ninja. But anyways, yeah, so the system, I think he'll adapt to it quite quickly, but it's more to do with adapting to life in England. That'll be the struggle. The star player has to be Mohamed Salah. You have to go with that. And the reason I've gone for Mohamed Salah, the first half of last season, before AFCON, before the fixtures really started mounting up for him, he was one of the best players in the world. I do think it took his toll on his body, within the Premier League, competing in so many competitions for Liverpool, barely having that break. Egypt not being in the World Cup is quite huge. Think about that, people. That's massive for Mohamed Salah, and giving him that mid-season break, splitting the season in half. It's going to be huge for him in that sense. So Mohamed Salah definitely goes in for me as their star player. And the one to watch, he was my one to watch for last season, and I'm going to go with it again, and that is Harvey Elliott. Harvey Elliott, I do think he will take over from that position in Jordan Henderson. He started the season out in that right central midfield, coming in onto his left and playing well. I remember that game against Burnley, but then he suffered that horrific injury, which wasn't as bad as first feared, but it still did take a massive toll on him in terms of the season. I do think he will be given that added responsibility. And yeah, there's a lot of Liverpool fans talking about midfielders that they need. Adding Carvalho in there as well. He can play across the front three and in that midfield. I think Harvey Elliott is going to have a fantastic season for Liverpool. What's your thoughts on Liverpool, Ed, this season?
Yeah, I think when you're looking at, I think we talked about it last week, it's fine-tuning, isn't it, for teams like Liverpool and Man City. So I think there's definitely an issue with midfield, but I don't know if it's a big one. Fabinho stays fit. Henderson, you'll get enough minutes out of him. Like he's talking about, players like Harvey Elliott that lost a lot of a chunk of last season will step up this season and be given more of a chance. That the midfield in Liverpool in the Klopp system needs to be functional and useful and not detract from that attacking prowess that they have, and obviously to fill in when Robbo and Trent bomb on. So the midfield, whilst it is an obvious issue, the functionality of it is what's important with it rather than necessarily the players. So for me, if we're getting onto our predictions, I have them second, but it's only because of how good Man City are that I haven't that this Liverpool team doesn't run away with it. I've watched the Premier League now for pretty much since its inception. I'm pushing on to 40 in a couple of years' time, so I've seen a lot of teams, watched a lot of football. This Liverpool team, this Man City team, is up there with some of the best. When I wondered what you were going to say for strengths and weaknesses, because the strengths you could just say everything, the weaknesses you could say pretty much everything. So it's. I'll be interested to see how Konate does. I think King's put it in the chat. I liked what I saw of him towards the end of last season. He seemed to be getting stronger and stronger with each game that he was playing in. So I'm still reeling from the fact that I genuinely thought they were going to roll over Real Madrid. And obviously the gummy bear proved that I was wrong. But so I think this is a great one. And it'd be interesting to see. I was impressed with Nunez, what I saw in the Charity Shield or the Community Shield, whatever it's called. I liked his sort of bulldog attitude. He's very much a centre forward that looks fit for the Premier League. His physicality and his all action sort of outlook looks like a Premier League forward, but it will take time. It will take time.
Exactly that right there. So where do you think that Liverpool are going to finish there, Ed? Do you think they are going to win the league like Mr. 200 has said? Or do you think they're going to finish second like David has said in here? Let me know your thoughts in the chat, guys, where you do think Liverpool are going to finish.
Yeah, I've gone with them finishing second.
Ooh, so Liverpool to finish second. So we'll get into Manchester City. I'll hear your thoughts then. But I also agree with you. I do think that Liverpool are going to finish second. When we talk about Manchester City, I think we'll talk a little bit more why we think they're going to finish second, because it's not really on Liverpool why we've gone for them, because they are head and shoulders above everybody else in the league. They are in a different bracket. But yeah, their competition is Manchester City. Red Devil Yannick says star player is Van Dijk. The one to watch is Darwin Núñez. King says the strengths, club structure, manager, world-class players. Weakness, a creative central midfielder. Star player, Salah. One to watch, Konate. I do think though, King, I think Carvalho can. I don't think we will see it this season, but Harvey Elliott, he will add more creativity from that central area. He's someone that, to keep an eye on. And big up yourself as well, King, man. Appreciate that there. Appreciate you all. Steffi, I know you ran off now, but big up yourself. Thanks to everyone tuning in. And Ed's put in here, you know what? The engagement has been incredible. Thank you so much, guys. We really do appreciate the support that you guys continue to show to the channel. And hopefully, I'm hoping that you guys are enjoying this content and enjoying that we're giving you. Nearly 2 hours worth. We'll probably hit that 2 hour mark.
Yeah, we will.
Because, we've still got to run through the current reigning champions in Manchester City. Ed's done his research on them. Ed, we're interesting to give us to give the weaknesses there, just like how you thought it was interesting for me to run through Liverpool's as well.
Yeah, so I mean the strengths speak for themselves, doesn't it? Not one of their players wouldn't walk into probably any other team in any of the divisions. If we're being overly critical, there is obviously a need for another fullback, which is why they're so interested in Cucurella. Obviously, Kyle Walker, another year on. How much will his calf muscles and hamstrings hold up? There are more and more niggles for him as he gets a bit older, and obviously he relies so much on his speed. There's potential for muscle injuries as players get older, which we all know. But strengths, realistically, look at the entire team. That midfield of Rodri, KDB, Bernardo Silva. Then you've got the attacking prowess of Mahrez. They've obviously brought in Haaland. Alvarez looked good from what I saw, the brief glimpse of him, although Pep wasn't overly happy with him, even though he scored a goal. But when we're talking about weaknesses, areas of improvement, I've had to go really nitpicky with this now. Grealish has got to step up. He's got to take the Sterling minutes. He's got to be creative. He's got to show he's worth the money that they spent on him. And the transition with Haaland, it is going to have to change Pep's system. A lot of people, I think, have overanalyzed and written Haaland off, or not written him off, but criticised him for the Community Shield. I think the other way around. I think what we saw from him is what he's going to offer once the calibration of the midfield, especially KDB, has in, hang on, there's a player that's going to spin going behind. It's going to be something very, very different. And I think if we're looking at potential weaknesses, will that transition, what will it look like? We know Pep isn't overly keen on throwing players straight in, which is why Grealish didn't play as many minutes as people thought last year. He did it before with other players that they brought in. You know, Cancelo didn't start every single game when he first came in. We've seen him blood players slowly. We've seen him change players like Aguero, how he changed. Star player is take your pick, but it's got to be Kevin De Bruyne. And the one to watch, again, speaks for itself. It has to be Haaland. It's going to be interesting to see how he does. But when you just look at his raw stats, 183 games, 135 goals, 35 assists, and his career averages from when he broke through to now, including the Community Shield when apparently he had a bad game, he averages a goal every 89 minutes he's on the field. That's a goal a game. That is ridiculous. Obviously, that stat means that coming on as a substitute, you don't play as many minutes, coming off, blah, blah, blah. And he's proven it in leagues, and he's got better and better as he's gone up the leagues. So he left Leipzig, he went to Dortmund, he improved. Now he's left Dortmund, he's come to the Premier League in Man City, he's improved. And of course, the strength has to be Pep. You could argue a weakness is, will Pep tinker too much? He's been known to do that in the past. But I see these guys finishing first. I see Haaland getting probably 30 goals in all competitions once that calibration happens, as long as he's given the starting berth from the get-go. And I see Grealish having to step up, but that will change. He will take the Sterling minutes, but it will go from less. Obviously, he doesn't score enough goals, and maybe he will this year, but his role will be more in the setting up and the assists than it would have been for Raheem Sterling.
Totally agree with you there. And maybe Pep won't have much to rotate with because he's lost the likes of Jesus, Zinchenko and Sterling, and he hasn't really replaced them. But there is certain players that I know we've got those of you in the chat have mentioned as well, like King strengths, everything. Weakness is their depth in the defense, in particular. Starman Guardiola. One to watch is Julian Alvarez, and he's someone that could replace those goals in there. Another is a goal scoring threat who can play across the front three, and you know what? All setting up Haaland, feeding Haaland. Like Ed was mentioning there, it's going to be a problem, people. Ed hit the nail on the head when talking about Manchester City. City have lost Sterling, Jesus replaced with Haaland, but Haaland's injuries will be a problem with the intensity of the Premier League. Second, says Mr. 200. Red Devil Yannick says one to watch is Julian Alvarez, star player Phil Foden. And
I didn't even mention Foden, did I? And I love Phil Foden. True. But that's the thing. You can just get stuck in Man City about who's good. So it's obvious to forget some players.
It's true. And my counter argument to the Haaland injuries, the season once again split in half. No World Cup for Haaland. I think he'll give him that perfect bedding in period for him to adapt and, you know what, and cope with those injuries as he's growing into his body a lot more.
What is Pep going to do with those 5-6 weeks? He is going to go insane. I think he's going to be in a bunker by himself with a tactics board, and then he's going to bring in anyone that isn't in the World Cup down into that bunker with him, and he's just going to talk at them.
Exactly. We've all gone for Manchester City to finish first, by the way. So, yeah, the main reason why I've gone for City to finish first is I do think that they are more... I do think they can control games a little bit more better now, and their weakness that they had last season, even though they still won the league, was not having a killer in front of goal. Haaland is the best striker that was available in the summer, and he will be that killer. I know you might say, oh, but he didn't kill it in the Community Shield. Wait until this guy has his shooting boots. 2 pre-season games Manchester City had. And that's 2 pre-season games Haaland had for Manchester City. Ed was texting me during this, and he was saying, do you know the amount of runs that Haaland's making? They just need to get their tactical tweaks there better, and these players will spot them. Once Kevin De Bruyne Look, doesn't even need to look up. You know what Kevin De Bruyne is like. Trains with Haaland, knows the run he's going to make. He'll put it on a sixpence. Jack Grealish, he'll do it as well. Mahrez, Bernardo Silva, he's going to eat. Phil Foden, you know what I mean? They're all goal scorers within themselves, but creators as well. Yeah, Haaland's got he cannot fail. He cannot, I promise you. He won't, unless injuries, like Mr. 200 is saying. That's the only caveat for Haaland failing. But yeah, we've done Manchester City now. So you know what it is. The next side is Manchester United. And this one's for you, Yannick, and all the United fans that are watching. Manchester United, interesting for them. And my strength that I've gone for in Manchester United, and what I think there is obviously their manager. I think you have to look at Erik ten Hag now. Manchester United haven't had a coach who is going to develop players and who can improve players since Louis van Gaal. That was 2015-16. That's a long time, people. That's 6 years ago. And that's 6 years of the likes of Anthony Martial, Marcus Rashford, that they've lost in their career, that they won't get back. But there is a few young players at Manchester United that you need to keep an eye on, who definitely have the ability, and now having a coach in Ten Hag who has proven to bleed youngsters through. I know he's more of a club philosophical way at Ajax, but he's shown if you're good enough, I will trust you and I will play you. And that's Erik ten Hag. He's their big strength. Also, looking at their strengths, it's their goal scoring ability. Manchester United have plenty of goal scorers on the pitch. With Ronaldo staying, he's another goal scorer. Martial, Rashford, Sancho, Bruno, Donny van de Beek, Eriksen can score goals. Maybe Harry Maguire will score goals as well if he now he's got a proper, he's got a very good set piece taker in Eriksen as well. He might score a few more. Varane from set pieces too. They have plenty of goals. And even, I know you guys, I know Man United fans aren't big fans of him, but even Scott McTominay pops up with a few goals in a season. So yeah, they have goals all over the pitch in Manchester United. They've got threats. If they can fit into Ten Hag's system, they will be able to score plenty of goals for sure. There will be high scoring games for them. And yeah, that their creativity high up the pitch. Once again, Bruno and Christian Eriksen, they've got versatility there and they've got good depth. And then you're looking at the wide areas too that they need. They've got creativity in. But their weakness, however, in Erik ten Hag's system, I'm not sure if their defense is capable of defending that with that high line, with the player profile they've got. Of course, if you're playing Alessandro Martinez and Rafael Varane, that's probably the ideal to play that high line. But Harry Maguire, Victor Lindelof, they are very much low block defenders in that sense. Players who like to defend on the low block, mainly Harry Maguire because of his lack of speed and agility, and he doesn't have he doesn't excel in his defensive awareness in terms of positioning. So yeah, he does seem like a low block defender in that sense. Victor Lindelof, he's not physically strong, he's not quick either, and with Manchester United's right back, it looks like he will be playing Diogo Dalot, and he will be very high up the pitch. That will mean that the likes of Varane, even, or Lindelof, Varane's question is, can he maintain his fitness throughout the season? And Lindelof covering wide areas. It doesn't look great for a Ten Hag system and what he requires from his centre-backs. So there's improvement needed there, but that's probably for next season, I can imagine. And the massive thing is taking time for it to adapt for the players, and so there's going to be certain players that won't be able to adapt to Ten Hag's system. When you've seen philosophical managers come in the Premier League, Jurgen Klopp, Pep Guardiola, Mikel Arteta, whatever your thoughts are on him, he has a clear, defined way that he wants to play. Thomas Tuchel, managers that have this clear way of playing, there's going to be so many players that are already at the club that aren't just going to fit that system. And I think that's going to be the case at Manchester United because they've not followed any specific strategy in terms of the transfer market. Star player, though, I've gone for Jadon Sancho. I think this is going to be his season where he will blow for Manchester United. We will see the numbers that he put up at Borussia Dortmund in goals and assists, whether he's playing out from the left or the right. I think Jadon Sancho from the left, he's a better goal scorer, but from the right, he's a better creator because it opens up the pitch a lot more when he's on that right foot. Capable of using his left, very good at finishing as well. I think Jadon Sancho will cook at Manchester United this season. And the one to watch, a lot of pressure. I think this could be his last dance if he doesn't succeed. But if he does, then a lot of Manchester United fans will be proven to, their excitement will be proven from pre-season in Anthony Martial. I think this is the perfect fit for him in a Ten Hag system, a player who's adept at covering those wide positions, running into the channel, very, very good at linking up the play and connecting with his deep running midfielders. If Eriksen and Bruno, who knows a runner into the box, if he can link up well with them, then you know what? Manchester United have got the ability in players right there. So, yeah, what do you think on Manchester United, Ed? There's Chino saying Martial. Of course, I'd get him there.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you said. I don't think the obvious obvious issues is still that midfield. It's still who shields for that potentially leaky defence. Not huge on the Harry Maguire hate. He's not as bad as people think, but he's also not as good as people thought he was 2 or 3 seasons ago. And people did think he was good. If people try and give this revisionist history that people weren't blowing him up and saying how good he was and overblowing how good he was at bringing the ball out, people were saying that. You might not be saying that if you're watching or listening to this, but people did say that. There's still that big issue. Fred has had a good pre-season from what I know. The biggest talking point, as always, is Cristiano Ronaldo is making it about himself again. Just get him out of the club. He's even taking Dallo down with him now, isn't he? Being caught leaving early with him and stuff. So, yeah, I think he needs to go. I'm hopeful on the Sancho thing. I loved him what I saw of him at Dortmund. I didn't like what I saw of him last year. There was a little bit too much. Wasn't sure whether to go, whether to stay for me. So I'm hoping he does do well, obviously with an England hat on as well. I like the fact that he's a very different player to what other England players offer. They're still going through this rebuild, I think, as Mr. 200 said. And United were the team that I agonised over the most today when finally deciding where I was going to put them. Because I think Ten Hag is their biggest strength, like he said. And obviously, he's not going to take any rubbish, which hopefully will spread to the fact that whatever Ronaldo, whether he stays or goes, needs to sort of suck it up. And either put it all back in for the club or leave. You're not bigger than the club, Cristiano, despite how amazing and incredible you are. You are not bigger than Man United, and you never will be. So I think he needs to eat some humble pie, apologise, and get back in his team, because his teammates aren't going to like him, are they? Let's be honest. And I don't think you need that. You don't need that around a complete rebuild with a complete new setup. So for me, I think he's the biggest issue. And if he's not sorted soon, the start of the season could very much be marred by his behaviour.
There you go, right there, people. And there you go. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat before Ed puts Manchester United places where Manchester United thinks they're going to be. Is Antonio says United to get relegated. I'm guessing you're not a Manchester United fan. Manchester United going through a rebuild. I've got them in 6th. It's going to take time. You are right. And I didn't mention that midfield. That's definitely an area they need to improve on. Weaknesses, definitely central defence and midfield. In that midfield area, in anywhere in that real second third of the pitch, in that middle third, they need improvement there. And their strengths is Erik ten Hag, like Yannick has said, and one to watch, Martinez. Certainly, he will improve the ball progression from deep. You are right there, Yannick. It'll be interesting to see how he defends in the Premier League as well. Not more to do with his height. It's more like I'd even say this for Saliba, who's 6'4". Just need to watch how the physicality, the intensity will be a different breed. Not to do with his height. It's more to do with the intensity. That's what I'm looking at. And he thinks that Man United are going to finish in 4th. Martin, we might probably get there. Just go ahead without us if that's the case. But yeah, so what it's going to be now? David says 6th. Ed, what are you saying?
This is where I was agonising. So Mr. 200 and David have agonised where I was, 6th or 7th, and I've gone with 7th. But I think I might be wrong. If I could change it now, I would, but I'm not going to. I'm going to stick with where I said they were going to be, which was 7th.
You've gone for 7th. I have gone for the same as you, David. I have gone for 6th. The reason why I haven't gone for Manchester United in 7th is because I just think the quality between them and the teams below them is just still way too big. And even in their worst season, I don't think it'll be worse than last season. And in that case, I don't think you're going to finish below 6th. And you finished 6th, yes, last season, and that was horrible. Big up, Lumir is saying that 20th for Manchester United, and Baba is saying United need a striker, proper DM, and a right-footed defender. I got to agree with you there, Baba. I've got to agree with you right there. So the next team that we're going to go for is, we've done Manchester United. Ed's gone for 7th. I've gone for 6th. We're going to go for another United, but this is in Newcastle United. That new Saudi Arab money hasn't quite sunk yet, but they've made some signings. But Ed, hit us away and talk to us about their strengths, weaknesses, star player, and a one to watch.
Yeah, so their strengths, I've actually gone with the sensible approach in the transfer window. They've kept that continuity. Talking about Ronaldo needing to eat humble pie, you can pass me a piece, because I genuinely thought that Eddie Howe was going to flame out by the end of last season. I thought they were going to Newcastle, when they're in trouble, I thought they were going to stay up, but only because of this new money influx, not because of Eddie Howe. And I think Eddie Howe improved players. He made Matty Targett look like a very good left back. That, I think, for me, says it all. And he moved Joel Linton, this big laughing stock, into quite an effective midfielder. So their sensible approach in the transfer window, the work that Eddie Howe's already put in, and the continuity that brings, and the improved defence. Botman is an upgrade on the centre backs they had. Nick Pope is a very big upgrade on the goalkeeper they had. Now, Nick Pope is a shot stopper. Newcastle are not in the league yet with the players they have that they're going to dominate the ball. So therefore, you don't need one of those more elite goalkeepers that are better with their feet and passing out from the back and all those things. Not that Nick Pope is, he's not a goalkeeper from the 60s that just picks the ball up and boots it. But he's going to be perfect for where they are now, a shot stopper, someone that dominates the box. They've the weaknesses, areas improving. They still have not addressed the attacking central striker. Callum Wilson has proved at Bournemouth and at Newcastle he can score goals at this level, and important goals, and good goals, and scrappy goals. But he does not stay fit anywhere near enough. And without him, their forward line is very, very light. And you're then reliant on players like Saint-Maximin, who can flatter to deceive. They haven't upgraded yet Joe Willock, who I like, but he shouldn't be a starting midfielder. And he is still very much living off that ridiculous run under Steve Bruce, which was impressive, but I think an anomaly in his career rather than what will be the norm. Star player, I've gone for Bruno Guimaraes. If you look at his stats and what he did last year, 17 games that man played, 5 goals, 1 assist. He averaged 30 passes a match, 4 tackles, 3 interceptions, and the press that he did was phenomenal. What he did, how he kept that team ticking over. Talismanic. He's a very much that Newcastle, it's that one club city. They need a talisman, and I think they have it. He wanted to be there. He wants to be there. He's obviously growing. He's a big fan of being sort of a bigger fish in a smaller pond. And I say that Newcastle fans with respect. You're a huge club, huge following, all of that good stuff. But you haven't won anything for years. So realistically, smaller in terms of, compared to other teams. What you're going to do with this Saudi money, who knows? You could get back to the heights of, your yesteryear. And the breakthrough player, I'm going to be interested in what Botman's like. Now, my team, Wolves, were interested in him last summer. So I did a lot of reading up on him. Seems like a good ball-playing centre-back. He knows what to do with the ball. He seems like he doesn't mind getting, his boots dirty. Doesn't dive in very much from the YouTube videos that you see, but, they're heavily edited. So I think for me, he's their one to watch. Potentially, Saint-Maximin, you always say he's one to watch because what he does is sometimes incredible, sometimes ludicrous. Most of the time, it's both, possibly at the same time. So he's always interesting to watch. So I'm excited to see what Newcastle do, because I think their sensible approach has surprised a lot of people. And there's still a month left of this transfer window. If they sign a couple more players, especially another midfielder, the weakness is definitely in that spine. You know, are they going to rely still on John Joe Shelby in this season? They shouldn't be if they want to move on. And obviously the Callum Wilson, they don't even have sort of like the break in case of emergencies, Dwight Gale this year. So I don't know what's going to happen when, because it won't be if, when Callum Wilson misses 5-6 weeks. But potentially, like we've talked about previously, T, you brought it up a couple of times, maybe this truncated 5-week break that we're going to get might be perfect for these players that are injury prone. So who knows? But I'm interested to see Newcastle. I think they're what in the NBA they call a league pass team, so a team that you're going to be interested to see when they get Super Sunday, when they get the Friday night games as and when they come up, because it's going to be interesting. And that Newcastle fan base is going to be up and ready to enjoy this season, because they're out of the weeds. They're not being managed by Steve Bruce anymore. They have a plan and they have all this money. So I think we're going to see men with beer guts and tattoos from August until May next year. So I think I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do.
Where do you think that they're going to finish there, Ed?
So I've actually gone with quite a good season for them. I've gone for them to be 8th. I think they're in the middle of this big transition, and I think there's still going to be a couple of signings in. I'm not going to know anything about Newcastle's transfer rumours. I see them maybe signing at least one more player. They obviously might address that centre forward position. I see them finishing 8th.
All right, do you know what? I've agreed with you once again. You've hit the nail on the head with Newcastle. Eddie Howe's proven to be a good manager. I think if there is a weakness, the jury still might be out on him if he's going to get Newcastle defensively solid, because that's probably been his weakness over his career at Bournemouth. He didn't really build upon their defense. He always got them playing good attacking football, though, and you really squeezing the best out of them and keeping Bournemouth within the league. Also, when I look at their weaknesses in terms of their squad, still in those wide areas, heavily reliant on Alan Saint-Maximin. They're a bit short there. Ryan Fraser, but not in that sense. But yeah, in terms of numbers.
There you go, King. King, there's a dad joke, but not from me.
Exactly. But yeah, I do think they're going to finish 8th. They're just going to build up on that. And then if they do get Maddison, they do get another striker in to compete with Callum Wilson, they're going to be in the money there. And they've got a good core squad to work with. And that's what Eddie Howe's built, and the patience that they're taking there. They're going to slowly work their way up. But when they do get there, with how they're building, if they carry on in this direction, it could be sustainable. It could be in a sustainable model that they're going with. Lubomir goes with Newcastle to finish in 8th. Mr. 200 says they're going to finish 7th. So that's breaking into Europe right there if they do get into that position right then. Yannick says star player Alan Saint-Maximin. And he's going for them to finish in 9th. He's someone that, for a lot of fans, the jury is still out. And yeah, it is a long one, but thank you so much to all of you guys for sticking around. We will move on to the next side. And I've got this is my first promoted side in Nottingham Forest. So I was looking forward to this one, and I'm glad I got Nottingham Forest, because their manager is their strength for me in Steve Cooper. What a manager this is. When he took over at Nottingham Forest, they were in the relegation zone. That's crazy. And this is what the championship's like. If those of you are just Premier League fans and you don't really pay too much attention to the championship, one part of the season you might see a team literally fighting to save themselves, but with a few games they'll be right back in the playoffs. And all it took was a manager. Chris Hughton got the sack. Steve Cooper came in and he got them playing. And in that period, when he did take over, that from when he took them over, they got the most points in the league, scored the most goals. They were literally their best side in the league. And they're built, and this is talking to Ed and someone that we know, big up Duncan if you're watching, who was a Forest fan, and he said that they build their team on their fullbacks. And you saw that with Jed Spence last season, and even Jack Colback looked decent in the games that he was there. But that is another reason why Jed Spence was good, because Steve Cooper has implemented that system to be designed to get the best out of their fullbacks, which is why they have signed Nico Williams. They signed that I forgot his name now, the one from the French league. 2 right backs, but there we go. They signed 2 wing backs. They signed Harry Toffolo as well as Omar Richards. So there's 4 of those signings have been in those fullbacks positions, and that's where they're going to be looking to build from. And that's where they certainly do get their strengths in that 3 at the back system as well. Perfect for their defenders, gets a lot out of them. And you know what a 3 at the back system is like, guys. It's basically a cheat code, and it also gets the best out of their midfielders. It takes the defensive responsibility from them, shares the load out of the back 3 as well, get them building down those wide areas and into their strikers. But that is where I think their weakness is currently at, and that is goal scoring. They do not have a proven Premier League goal scorer as of yet. Taiwo Awoniyi, who scored plenty of goals for Union Berlin. But, you know, we've spoken about previous players that have come from the Bundesliga in Timo Werner that hasn't quite translated. And he was a Liverpool player, actually, but they couldn't work out a work permit for him. Thank you, Brexit. So we're looking at goal scoring depth, what they need to improve on. But they're Premier League proven players. They do not have too many of them either. Jesse Lingard, Dean Henderson are the only ones. And Steve Cook, I guess you could put him in there too. But I think going back to their strength, their recruitment has been fantastic. To sign Harry Toffolo and Lewis O'Brien for 10 million, who were arguably their best left back and the best midfielder in the Championship for 10 million, both at Huddersfield. They've done excellent business there. Definitely keep an eye on them. And Lewis O'Brien, I think, is a good replacement for James Garner. Versatile too. He can play at left back also. So keep your eye on him. But their star player for me has to be Brennan Johnson. Certainly has to be. He's the one that they're going to be building upon. Brentford put in a £20 million bid for him last season, which got rejected because Forest wanted to keep a hold of him, increase their chances of getting promoted, and this is going to be his season to shine. And if he can keep the club that he started his career at in the Premier League, that's a great platform to build from. And you know we've seen Jack Grealish do that, and he went on to Manchester City for 100 million. Brennan Johnson seriously does have the world at his feet if he can work it well. I know he's still young. We can't put too much pressure on him, but he's someone to keep your eye on. And he's had a fantastic period. He was on loan at Lincoln, came to Forest, smashed it, and look what's going on now as a Premier League player. One to watch. Many of you may not have heard of him, unless you watch your German football, is Orel Mangala, the Belgian international. He's not a Belgian international, actually. Has he represented them? I don't think he has, but he came from Stuttgart. Midfielder. I know a lot of these people. I know a lot of you people. I certainly do. If you're like me, watch players who are very good at bringing the ball out. You can have that energy in that box-to-box sense. But he's in the 99th percentile for dribbles completed from midfield. So he's in that top 1% of midfielders in the top 5 leagues in Europe who complete the most dribbles as a central midfielder. Very good technically with the ball at his feet and progressing the ball. You'll enjoy watching him there. His defensive attributes, though, they're something to be a little bit, frowned upon or something that you can question him. But once again, in the Steve Cooper side, playing with a wing-back system, 3 at the back, out in possession, 5 at the back, out of possession, he's going to be covered perfectly there. So Ura Mangala, keep your eye on him. I don't think he will start the season in their midfield. I think it will be Lewis O'Brien and then Ryan Yates, Ryan Yates was a key part of their side, but Mangala will get introduced. Keep your eye on him. Good signings they've made right there. What's your thoughts on Forest, bro?
Yeah, I think they're impressive. Their recruitment's been good. It's been active. It doesn't seem desperate from the players they brought in. It doesn't seem like they've rolled the dice on too many people and overpaid. Like you talked about, Championship players for 10 million is really, really good. The 2 players that you talked about, Mangala's got 2 caps for Belgium. I just checked.
Oh, yes.
And Biancone. Is it Biancone?
That's the one. Yeah.
So they look like they've made good signings, and it's all about the manager for me. I think the manager is a top quality manager. I would have him in a heartbeat at my club. And I think mixed in with some of those unknowns are some players that we know can perform at this level. Dean Henderson, Premier League goalkeeper. Thanks for coming, Yannick. Really appreciated it. So when you look, even Lingard, I know not many people think Lingard, they think he's a walking meme, but he has proved on his day he can perform at this level. So I think they're doing well. And to get onto the predictions, because we are almost at my bedtime, because I'm an old man now and I've got work, is that I've got Forest at 15th.
There you go. Forest at 15th, right there. Says
Comfortable.
Ed, in terms of your prediction, that's a decent position in that mid part of that bottom half of the table, right there. So, right there it is. Is that the right position?
Yeah.
In 15th. I've gone for Nottingham Forest to actually finish higher than that. I do think they will have a good season. Once again, I do rate Steve Cooper. I think he's going to finish in 13th, That's where I do think that Forest are going to end up being at the top of that bottom half in that sense. And they'll have a good solid season. He'll build upon that. They'll have a sticky patch, but it'll move on from there. So there's Nottingham Forest. Let me hear what you guys are thinking. Lumia thinks that they're going to get relegated, 19th, unfortunately. David says Dean Henderson and Jesse Lingard. Yep, it is massive. Forgot about that. I know Forest to stay up easy. I know you're from that part of the UK as well, in Nottinghamshire, so you have to say that. Otherwise, your Forest fans would be after you. Big up Tezzy as well. If you do check it out, I also said that we will get Champions League football. I know it is shameful.
And I've got you fourth. I've got you fourth, so it's not both, it's us.
Ed was disappointed as well. But good night to yourself, Yannick. Thanks for coming by. Thank you for subscribing. And if you are new like Yannick, make sure you do hit that subscribe button. Thank you for all of you tuning in. It's been a long one. We're getting towards the end now. Got a few more clubs. We've all got 2 each now. Ed, you have got Southampton. Talk to us about Southampton this season.
I think this could be a relatively quick one. That midfield needs improvement for Southampton. The midfield improvement is a strength, of Southampton. Bringing in Joe Aribo is keeping hold of James Ward-Prowse. There were some rumours at the start of the summer that potentially he was going elsewhere. Weaknesses, again, it's the common theme, goals. We saw last year that Che Adams, Adam Armstrong, without Brozier, they would have probably struggled a lot more last year. He did, in his brief cameos and appearances, did do a lot for them. And you may have seen me have a meltdown once about James Ward-Prowse. He is definitely their star player. What he offers from a dead ball is unrivaled, probably the Premier League. What he offers with the ball moving is probably rivaled by nearly every other central midfielder in the Premier League. But the difference in his quality in his dead ball situations is, it is literally a game changer. So for me, he's easily their star player. Holding on to him is a big one this year. But please, Gareth, if you're watching, don't put him in November, in the middle of November. I do not want to see him in my England squad. And the breakthrough player, I'm hoping it's going to be Joe Aribo. 83 games for Rangers, 18 goals, 17 assists in the Scottish Premier League. And in the Europa League, 32 games, 3 goals and 3 assists. He can fit in central midfield, but he's more likely to be played either as a right-sided midfielder. But his biggest place where he played more than 60% of his games whilst at Rangers was in that attacking, not necessarily number 10, but a more attacking number 8 role, where he was sort of in and around the strikers, feeding the strikers and trying to get on to the end of things. I think he's going to be an interesting signing for them. Southampton scouting has been pretty good. We talked about it last week. Players like Tino Livramento, Brozier that they picked up on loan last year. And I think a big one as well, keeping hold of Kyle Walker-Peters. When Conte is at the club that used to own him and they have a buyback clause and he's a ready-made right wing-back, I'm very surprised that they managed to keep hold of him because I highly rate him. He was in and around my FPL team I think holding on to him and James Ward-Prowse. So it's all the WP, so KWP and JWP. They've managed to hold on to both of those players that, potentially have the ability to prop that team up. I think without James Ward-Prowse, if he gets an injury, there's a huge, huge issue with creativity in that team. And Ralph Hasenhüttl can one game look like a tactician masterclass and another game lose 9-0. So I think we have ups and downs with Hasenhüttl as well. So they're an interesting team, but probably for not interesting reasons, if that makes sense.
So you have put them in 17th. What's your reason for that?
I think there's just enough for them to stay up. I just think the 3 teams I've got below them are going to have a worse season.
Yeah. You say they're just going to stay up. It's a very risky transfer strategy that they've gone for, signing young players, a lot of them from Manchester City. Sekou Mara as their goal scorer, young player again, unproven at the top level once again, but we'll have to wait and see in terms of that. On the other hand, they are my team to go down. That's my final team to go down. We both agreed Fulham and Bournemouth, but I've gone for Southampton. I think it's too much of a risk for them at the moment, in all honesty. Lumir thinks that they're going to just about stay up in and around 15th and then 18th or 17th at best. So David also thinks that, similar with us, they're going to be in and around that relegation battle. And Bandido says, who is the best keeper pick on the bench? Ooh. Who would you say, Ed?
Is this the best backup keeper?
Yeah.
Was that the question?
Yeah.
It's a very good question.
If it's FPL related, it's a bit difficult.
FPL related, you're looking at anyone that's 4.5, so David Raya, even Jordan Pickford. They're all in and around that. But is it Areola for West Ham, if we're talking?
Probably, yeah.
Because Fabianski and Areola, there's not much difference between them. But if we're talking FPL, it depends how much you spent on your first keeper. But anyone that's 4 million below isn't going to play.
Yeah, we don't have a Ben Foster this year.
No.
There isn't a Ben Foster who played, who was a 4 million goalkeeper.
My goalkeeper's Sanchez.
If you go for a 4 million goalkeeper if you've got a 5 million, but if you've got a 4.5, then go for another one who's going to play, because then if one, then you just pick who's the best choice, and then you're still spending, the same amount of money.
Yeah.
If you get what I mean, you're still spending 9 million. It's just you've worked it out a little bit better. So it depends who you got your first choice keeper there, Bandido. But the next team that I'm going to go with, and you know what, it has to be Tottenham Hotspur. It's a bit difficult for me to say this because they are looking good. That's all I'll say. When I talk about their strengths, they have depth now. It's not their biggest strength, because we know their biggest strength is Antonio Conte. But the issue that has plagued Tottenham season in, season out, has been depth in that side. Up front, in midfield, at the back, they have it. And even in goal, Fraser Forster's not a bad goalkeeper to come off the bench. If it was the other question, you'd probably say he's one of the better goalkeepers on the bench as well. So, yeah, it's not great for Tottenham. For an Arsenal fan looking at it, Richarlison, he's adding attacking versatility, can play up front, can play out the left, can play out on the right. Lucas Moura, Kulusevski, options there. Perisic is a good signing. He's an upgrade into that left wing back position. Jed Spence, that one, I'm going to put that towards the weakness a little bit, because even Conte's alluding that one to be more of a club signing rather than himself. And
nothing about him as a Conte signing, is it?
No, young player, takes time to develop, not great defensively. I know people are thinking, the Victor Moses, I'm hearing that a lot. But Victor Moses was an experienced player, and Conte only likes experienced players, really, apart from your Bastonis, who is literally one of the best centre-backs in the world for his age, so it's hard to really bring him as a comparison. But, they've got great depth now, Tottenham have. In terms of their weakness, still lacking a little bit creatively from the central areas. This is where I've been trying to speak to Arsenal fans and, not Arsenal fans, non-Arsenal fans. When Tottenham people say they don't really have any weakness, they do, because Conte's best sides at least had creativity from the midfield. Chelsea says Fabregas created a lot through that central area. And then at Inter Milan, they still had the likes of Barella. They still had Brozovic, who was a playmaker from deep. And then at Juventus, you had your Pogbas, you had your Marquisios, and Pirlo. The best attributes that Pirlo had was passing and creativity. They don't really have a passer in that midfield. Bentancur is their closest, but I still think I don't think he's that great, but the system.
Jury's out.
Jury's still out for me. But yeah, they've got depth, they've got numbers in there, but their star player, you can't really go past either Harry Kane or Son, really. I'm gonna choose Harry Kane to be their star player. If he stays fit, he will give them a lot of goals. I think he will improve. He will be able to stay higher up the pitch now because of their wing backs being much better, getting the balls into the box. He won't need to drop anywhere near as deep. But even if he does, he can play the balls into Heung-min Son, Richarlison, Kulusevski, Lucas Moura. You know how it goes. But they're one to watch for me. Interesting now, because I actually think their one to watch is their new signing in Bissouma, because I'm interested in seeing if he's going to improve his progressive passes, if he's going to become that Marcelo Brozovic. We know he's got the ability. He performed excellently at under Graham Potter at Brighton, but there's still that area of his game that I still think he needs development in. In transition, he's very good at dribbling with the ball, driving, as I said, one of those players. But at the next level, when you're going to be coming up against teams that are going to put a low block down, Jose Mourinho did it in the friendly, literally stomped the place out, and Roma won. So I think that could be the antidote for Conte. We saw Burnley do it last season. They picked up points whenever Spurs kind of were shaky towards the end, I know they beat Arsenal and they won on the final day against Norwich. They were fortunate to get a penalty against Burnley, and that got them over the line. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I think they still need that creativity from the middle, and Bissouma is going to have to show an extra part of his game for me. Where do you think Tottenham are going to finish though, bro?
I have them slightly above Arsenal in third. I think they're going to have a very, very good season.
In third. This one's Ed's table right now. I'll show you that. Ed has got them in third right there. So yeah, it's a great season for them. And yeah, do you think Conte will improve in the Champions League as well?
The Champions League is the only reason I think they're not pushing a bit higher for me. I think they're that squad that they have, whilst I agree with everything you've said about it being improved and Conte being a proven manager, there's still a lot of pressure on Kane and Son to produce on all fronts is going to be difficult for me, which is why I think I've got them third. But I think it's going to be closer between Spurs and Arsenal than I think than other players, other fans of different fan groups think, because I think a lot of people are blowing too much smoke in Tottenham's direction. I think they've had a very good window, very good off season, but I don't think it's going to be a game changer where they trouble that top two.
Hey, big up the raid as well, CM. Thank you for that. I really appreciate that, my brother. Thank you for the raid, and big up yourself as well, Brush. Really appreciate that one there. Lubmir says, in terms for you, Bandido, Ward is a good pick for the fact that Schmeichel's leaving too. And yeah, you do need to go for a cheap goalkeeper
cheap as you can if you've got Edison.
Yeah, you do definitely go 4 million because it will hurt you in other parts of your squad. David says fourth, Sherwin. Oh, I hope you're right. We're dreaming. But Lubomir also says that I believe Spurs are going to finish second, mostly because of their new signings, and Conte is known to finish high. Plus, Kane and Son will have their best year after, in my opinion. Yeah, I can hear that. We can see that. If you think they're going to finish above Liverpool or Manchester City, depending on who you've gone to win the league there. Possibility could happen if one of those teams had an injury crisis. I know, Tezzy, it made me sick talking about Spurs in such high regard. But big up everyone, man, for the 43 likes. That's one of the most I've had on a stream, people. Big up yourself. Thank you for that. Large up TED Talks. Big up yourself. When it is Tereak and Ed, it is TED Talks. You are right. Big up Vibes in the place as well. Thank you, Vibes. And big up yourself as well. Nick's in the mix. Big up yourself, Super Nick. Thank you for that. And we did talk about Spurs. And yeah, I've gone for Spurs in third as well. No, in third. Yes, I did say third. Yeah, I did say third. Yeah, it's not looking good, but I have gone for Spurs in third. We'll move swiftly on. Ed, this is your last team now in West Ham United.
Yeah.
Talk to me about their strengths, weaknesses, star player, and one to watch.
Yeah, so in terms of their strengths, they've got the continuity. Very good season, although it petered off towards the end when they obviously put all their eggs into the Europa League basket. If you look at their strengths as well, they've improved their striking options and their defence. Important that those improved because their midfield pretty stable. You know what you're going to get from Rice, Souček, Benrahma, etc. Weaknesses, areas of improvement for me. One injury to Jared Bowen, and all of a sudden that pipeline to the centre forwards is blocked. I'm still unsure what will happen without a Bowen. Providing those assists, providing those attacking progression numbers. Star player for me, it's quite boring. Declan Rice. I think Declan Rice, and I say this, and I don't say it lightly, he's the closest in both style of play and his language style to a Patrick Vieira I've seen. There's a potential for Rice to be able to do what Vieira did. Maybe not as well. Vieira's a much better player than what we've seen of anything of Rice so far. But that ability to move with the ball, to break the lines that I think he has, he's not just a sitting defensive midfielder anymore. He has that ability to go forward, to progress the ball. And that long stride that he has, I think if he improves that engine anymore, which he'll need to, maybe put some Vicks on his jersey, who knows. Breakthrough player, you could go with Bowen. If Bowen goes again, one to watch a breakthrough player, one to watch is Bowen, what he offered. 16 goals last year from just 36 shots on target. What a turnaround that is in the stats. I mean, that's, almost, a goal every other shot, which is incredible, really, when you talk about shots on target. Shots off target weren't that bad either. I think we're looking at 26, 27. So realistically, every 4 or 5 shots, he's scoring. But I think there's a very good signing. Scamacca, potentially, we could argue that his transfer value ballooned a bit with obviously PSG being in the bidding party as well. 36 million plus 6 million for add-ons. But West Ham needed a striker. They needed someone to lighten the load, and Antonio. And if you look at what he did in a team like Sassuolo, from Serie A, that's not a team that you would have really known about unless you watch Serie A. It's not AC Milan, it's not even Napoli. It's a team very much in the middle of the pack. It's West Ham from a few years ago, but in Serie A. So that signing, of all the strikers available, that's probably the best one that had a realistic chance for West Ham to sign. And obviously to sign someone that PSG were interested in and to technically beat them in the transfer market shows the intent that I think West Ham fans want to see from their club. So, yeah, I think they're going to have a good season. Again, of course, they're fighting on 2 fronts, but I think what they've actually done is improved their team. So, hat trick, have you been on mute?
Where do you think West Ham are going to finish?
that means you can take your microphone home tonight because you've got 3. I have West Ham 6th, so this is what I was agonising between Man United and West Ham. Where do they finish? 6th.
So you've gone for West Ham United to finish over Manchester United. For me, I've gone for West Ham to still finish in that top 7. I think that Gianluca Scamacca signing has put them above the rest. What a signing that is. Keep your eye out for him as well, man. If you watch his goals, he scored 16 goals last season. Mm-hmm. One of them was a penalty. And there's some screamers in there. Keep your eye on West Ham. And Ludmir also says West Ham are going to finish best at 5th. No new exciting signings. I think Scamacca is a good one. And if they do get Filip Kostic as well, Ludmir, it could be problems. West Ham are pushing and they are improving. And that's where, Ed may be right if they do get a Kostic, because that is a creator. That's one of the best creators in Europe if you're talking about assists, and that he's put up in the last 2 seasons alone. So yeah, it's not just over 1 year, it's over 2 as well. And the final team that I'm going to be discussing and bringing you their strengths, weaknesses, star player, and one to watch is Ed's himself in Wolves. Of course, we'll still get Ed's opinion on it, and it's the final ones, and then I'll show you the table as we wrap up, and then just a quick, and then we'll go through what we want to do coming up, and stay tuned for quickly. But here it is, Wolverhampton Wanderers. So when I'm looking at Wolverhampton Wanderers' strengths and what they're going to have to build on if they're going to have a good season, is that spine. I think the spine of Wolverhampton Wanderers is strong, it's settled as well. A lot of the players have been there for a long period of time, have seen their rise come up from their first season in the Premier League and into the Championship. The only one that is different is Jose Sarr, and we saw how good he was last season. I believe it was an upgrade on Rui Patricio. Do you believe that, Ed?
Yes, without a doubt.
In his ability. So yeah, Jose Sarr, and then looking out at their defence, they've got their strong centre-backs. If they do move from that 3 at the back into a 4 at the back formation with 2 centre-backs and full-backs, then it'll be interesting. Of course, we still got to see how that plays out in the Premier League, because managers and, pre-season, you tend to be a bit more creative in that sense and try out different tactics. But I do think they will stick out with that 3 at the back to begin with, unless they sign a centre-back not really a centre-back, sign another midfielder that will help and add depth into that position and help them, really suit that midfield position if they're going to have 2 players there, or 2 or 3 in midfield. So they still have a good spine. Jose Sarr, Max Kilman's very good at the back as well. I'm expecting improvement in Willy Bolly, Connor Cody in terms of his leadership. They've got the good wing backs in there as well. But in terms of the spine, you've got Ruben Neves in there too. And if Raul Jimenez, I know he suffered with an injury, it's not as bad as first feared, as his girlfriend did come out and say it's lies that people were saying it was going to be months. It's more to do with weeks than months, which is good after he suffered the MCL injury, which is good for Wolves because they certainly need recruitment in there. And yet that goes once again with their weakness in terms of squad depth. I think they need more in their midfield and attack in general, mainly in their spine of that in terms of their depth. If Raul Jimenez picks up an injury with Fabio Silva gone out on loan, you look, it's very short beyond that at the moment. In midfield as well, João Moutinho, his legs are starting to, further in the Premier League, aging a little bit. The demands of the Premier League will get a bit tougher. Ruben Neves, of course, we've still got to know, is like, you know what, with Ruben Neves, there's going to be the question of, is his heart in it? I think it still will be, because he's been a leader. He's been a captain since he was a teenager at Porto. So I do think he does show good professionalism, and he will potentially be his last season at Wolves. So that's what I'm looking at in terms of their strengths and weaknesses. Their star player, of course, I'm looking at in Raul Jimenez. I think he's so important for them. If he can not quite reach the levels where he was at before, because at his form, he was one of the best strikers in Europe. Like, that's how good he was in hold-up play, bringing players into the game, scoring goals in all different types as well, with his left foot, right foot header. We saw that regression, of course, but that was a big injury as well. So maybe if we're talking to the likes of Eze Neto once again, a whole season worth, he's dusted off the cobwebs, looks sharp in pre-season by the looks of it. And the one to watch for me is Pedro Neto. It's a bit obvious. Everybody's gone for him. Everyone's got him in their FPL as well, as a 5.5 million midfielder who plays more up front and more as a wide forward in that sense. What a player this guy is. What a signing that they picked up there. And Pedro Neto, the one to watch. If he can get back to the level he was at previously, Wolves, they will be comfortable in the league in my eyes. Ed, what do you make of that assessment?
Yeah, I think that's spot on. We are very light on players, but we're also apparently very light on money.
Okay.
The Jimenez injury is key. It's 4 to 6 weeks, so we're looking at the first 2-3 games. So hopefully that shouldn't be much. And he looked much more like himself in pre-season. There's a change to his headgear. It's now a very small patch instead of a big band. His heading was better. His ability to move was better. His vision was better, literally. So I'm hopeful for him to have a better season. The only other one to point out, Neto is class, by the way. After Rafinha was probably the best best player outside the top six when fit. But if you're not on him now, get on Ryan Aït-Nouri. The left wing back, left back, where he can play wherever. He is cool looking, handsome, really good on the ball, takes on a man, beats a man. He's getting better going backwards. He won't be at Wolves long. I'm just hoping we get a good profit out of him.
Yeah, Ryan Aït-Nouri, very good shout. He's in my FPL team as well.
I'm mine.
But yeah, Lubmir comes and he says that Wolves are going to finish 11th mid-table team. I think you'd be happy with that, wouldn't you, Ed?
Yeah, it's better than where I've put them, Lubmir. So thank you.
Sherwin, we haven't put them number one, unfortunately.
In his heart, Sherwin, they are.
Yeah, they are number one in my heart. Of course, you know that, Sherwin. But 13 more subscribers to go to get to 500. Guys, we have grown. Wow, what a stream this has been. We've grown so much. The 13 there, nearly there, people. Let's keep pushing. Thank you for all your support, everyone. Large up yourself as well, CM. Thank you, my man. And listen to him right there. He says, be sure to drop a like and subscribe to Tereak Talks over here. Follow over on Twitch. You know what? You've done better than me because I don't even talk about Twitch that much. Cool looking and handsome. Defo traits I look for.
Brush, we are closer to 3 hours. I'm surprised I'm still talking.
I know, right? Well, we both got bed to go to, but you know what? We had to get this done. And you know what? This is the last thing that we're going to do. Ed, tell me where Wolverhampton Wanderers are going to finish this season.
I've got us nestling perfectly there between Crystal Palace and... after Villa, haven't I? I've got us 12th.
Yeah, you have got, just below Villa. So that last team in that mid-table, 8th to 12th. So you do think Wolves are going to finish 12th? Ed, I'm sorry. I know you saw this. It's not as bad as it could be, but I do think that you are going to finish in 16th. So
I could see it as well.
I do think you are heavily reliant on those starters being fit in this short season. Well, not short, congested season. I think it's going to be difficult for you guys to stay fit. And then some of those players, those key players, are going to the World Cup as well. It's going to be an issue, I believe. But guys, we have finally reached our Premier League prediction finale. We've done it, people. Guys, I'm going to show you the tables right now, the final tables that we have gone for. Ed has gone for this. Ed, I'll let you read it out, what you've gone for from 1st to 20th.
Yeah, so I've got City to win, Liverpool, Spurs and Arsenal to pick up those UCLs. Then, Tereak, you've switched it over, I think.
I know, it's back to you.
Then I've got Chelsea to drop out into the Europa League. I had the West Ham, I had the United debacle. I didn't know which way to go around. I think I've gone the wrong way, but I'm going to say it anyway. Mid-table, Newcastle, Brighton, Palace, Villa and Wolves to sit comfortable. Bottom half, I see an improved season for Leeds. Leicester, I think, are going to drop. Forest are going to do well. I think Everton and Southampton are going to continue to struggle. And Brentford are going to be my surprise team to go down.
Interesting predictions right there. Mine's slightly different, but at the top, me and Ed have gone for the same. Manchester City to win the league, Liverpool in 2nd, Spurs in 3rd. Sorry, Arsenal fans, look away, my fellow Gooners, but I think Chelsea will finish in the top 4. Do you think Arsenal will finish 5th with the caveat of winning the Europa League? I think we will win that. And Manchester United in 6th and West Ham United in 7th. So not quite gone with Ed there, but basically the same from 5th to 7th, just switching the order. Well, actually from 6th to 7th, but switching the orders round. Mid-table, also gone with Newcastle to finish in 8th, Leicester in 9th, Palace in 10th, Brighton in 11th, and Aston Villa in 12th position. From 13 to 17, I think Nottingham Forest are going to have a good season. First season back in the Prem. May suffer with a little bit of a second season syndrome, but that's a very early prediction into the 23-24 season. Brentford to go and finish in 14th. I think they will have a better season than Ed's think that they will. And Everton in 15th, which is a decent season for them. Wolves in 16th, which is, it's not great. It's not good. It might lose Bruno Lage's job, but Wolves to stay in the Premier League so far is good, I guess. Leeds, I think they're going to struggle once again, but just about survive because Fulham, Southampton, and Bournemouth are worse than them, in my opinion. Guys, we have completed our prediction show nearly 3 hours in. Thank you to absolutely everyone who's stayed for them.
So many. It's been brilliant.
Whether you stayed here for 1 minute or the whole 2 hours and 48 or close to it, because I know there's certain people who have. Thank you so much, people. I really do hope you have enjoyed this. I might actually get this out in podcast form, because I think it. Oh man. 1 second, in podcast form, because I think it would be a good listen and something that you have to break down. You probably have to listen to it over a few days, but it would be worth it. I do think you go check it out. We've given an in-depth guide.
That was Spotify calling right there, I think.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Hopefully so. But guys, thank you so much once again.
We'll see you tomorrow.
We will see you tomorrow, but massive thank you to my co-host Ed for helping me out with this. Unless it would have been myself doing this, we probably would have been here for longer. But thank you, my bro. Really appreciate it, man.
And big up TCM as well for sanctioning me 2 nights in a row and almost 3 hours of my life. So she's made herself scarce and allowed me. So I know which side my bread's buttered. So yes, there was a thumb. There's a massive thumb on my head, and I'm happy for it.
Exactly. Big up T-Sheet. Thank you for that. And guys, we will be back tomorrow. And we'll give you more in terms of the prediction video. We will go through that because we're going to be doing another one soon. But I won't take much more of your time now. Check this out tomorrow. Premier League previews back. We're going to be talking about each and individual game coming up for the weekend. Our predictions, and we've got some prediction league stuff for you as well. So stay tuned. Love to you all. Thank you once again. We're out and peace.